Okay, I'm gonna need to talk really fast, right? So I'm gonna folks, this is set it up. The mayor's not here. Surprise, the mayor's not here. It's my first time. I've never seen it like this. I've seen it full, but not like this. It's pretty intimidating. Good lord. It's being an inexperienced city person. You know? Okay, I'm gonna sit while I still have a chance. Why are the policemen here? Not unrelated.
Buenos días, el señor Labange tiene un anuncio. Alguien para aquí, para el asiento número 19. Alguien de la comunidad que esté aquí tocante al asunto. Vamos a tener una audiencia pública. Gracias, señor presidente.
everybody. Welcome to City Hall.
Buenos
Welcome to
días
Council
a
Chambers, and
todos.
welcome to meeting of the Los
Bienvenidos
Angeles City Council for today,
al Consejo de la
November
Ciudad
22nd,
para el día de hoy,
2005.
22 de
City
noviembre
Council
de
meets every
2005.
Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday
Nos
at 10 a.m.
reunimos
Meetings
todos
are
los
open to the
martes,
public, and we
miércoles
do
y
invite you to join us.
viernes
For
a las
members
10
of
de
the
la
public
mañana. Les
unable to
invitamos a
attend
que se
council
reúnan
meetings,
con
we can be viewed
nosotros.
live on your cable station, channel
Podemos,
35. We can also be viewed live via
pueden
webcast from the city's homepage or heard via
sintonizarse en
council
vivo
phone.
en el canal
Please call the roll.
35 en español.
Cardenas,
Por favor,
Garcetti,
pase la
Gruel,
asistencia,
Honda,
señora
Barnes, Perry,
secretaria.
Reyes, Rosendahl, Smith, Weiss, Padilla, 10 members present
Hay
and a
10
quorum,
miembros
Mr. President.
presentes y
Thank you
tenemos
very
un
much. The
quórum,
council
señor
is officially in
presidente.
session.
El Consejo entonces
Members
está
of the public who are
oficialmente
here, this is Tuesday, and our custom of the first
con
meeting
la
of the
seen
week is to schedule
abierta.
our Pledge of Allegiance. I'd like to ask Councilmember Eric Garcetti to lead us in the
Quisiera
flag salute.
pedirle al concejal Garcetti
Thank
que
you very
nos
much, Mr. President. If I can ask everybody, please, to stand.
lleve
Place
hacia
your right hand
adelante
over your heart. Ready, begin. I
con
pledge
una mano
allegiance
derecha
to the flag
sobre el corazón.
of the United States of
Juro
America
lealtad a la
and to the
bandera de los Estados
republic for
Unidos
which it
de
stands, one
América,
nation,
de
under
la
God,
República para
indivisible,
a
with
quien
liberty
representa
and justice for all.
una
Thank you, Mr.
nación bajo
President.
Dios con libertad y justicia para todos.
Thank
Gracias,
you very
señor
much.
presidente.
Before we begin with the items on the
Antes de
agenda, let me just make a
comenzar,
couple of
comenzamos
announcements.
con los
First of all,
asuntos que están
colleagues,
pendientes en la gente.
we'll
Primero,
go through the
queridos
following
colegas,
sequence. I'm going to go
vamos a
through the
hacer
agenda
en
and
esta
discuss
siguiente
consent
orden.
items. We'll
Y
call
voy
items
a
special.
no ocuparme ahora
Before taking up the items called
con los
special, we'll come to general public
artículos que son de
comment. Clearly, there's a lot of
consentimiento.
folks in the audience
Obviamente
today
hay
who
muchas
have
personas
something to
aquí
say
en la audiencia que
to the
tienen
city
algo
council.
que
To all of
decirle
you,
al Consejo de la Ciudad.
Hold on a second.
Y para todos ustedes, un
To all
momento,
of you,
para ustedes,
To all of you, I do want to say,
quiero decirles
we're already
que
on borrowed time. You've
ya
seen me up here
estamos
negotiating with our fire
retrasados.
marshal,
me he visto aquí
who is ready
negociando con
to
el
clear out half of this council
jefe
chambers
de
and put
los
you in a different room.
fuegos y él
So I'm
quiere
buying a few
sacarlos
minutes. I
aquí
know there's a handful of you who want to speak on behalf of the
y
group.
ponerlos en
So
otro.
we'll take general public comment up
Sé que
first.
hay varios
I
de
have a
ustedes
couple
que
of you
quieren
come
hablar
up,
en
say
nombre
your
del grupo.
piece, and then I will
Quiero
have
se
to ask you
presenten,
to help us clear
digan
the
lo que tienen que
aisles and the
decir y que
walkways
nos
and all
ayuden a
that, because we
nosotros
don't want to be in
a
violation of any fire codes.
sacar aquí
So
a
if that sounds
personas de
fair,
los
then
pasillos
Madam
y
Clerk,
de
the first
los
order of business,
bancos. Así
please.
que, por
Approval
favor,
of the
señora
minutes.
secretaria,
Mr.
tenemos que
Smith moves,
aprobar
Ms. Perry
las
seconds.
notas.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Mr. Labange
que se
moves,
deben
and Mr.
aprobar.
Cárdenas seconds.
On the regular agenda, Mr.
En
President,
la
item
agenda
number 1 is an
normal,
item
número
notice for
uno,
public hearing, and the
que es
applicant
de
consents to
audiencia pública
continuance
y la
to
solicitante ha
November
consentido que
23rd.
se
Okay, colleagues, any objection to this
postergue
continuance?
hasta el
Seeing
23
none,
de
item 1
noviembre.
is continued. Next item.
Item number 2 is also a
El
public
número
hearing
dos
item.
también
It
es
is an
audiencia
ordinance, and I
pública,
believe
una
12 council
ordenanza.
members are expected today.
Creo
Do you
que
wish to hold that on the desk
esperan
for 12?
12
Let's, hold that on the
concejales
desk.
aquí. Bueno, entonces
The next items are items for which
en
public
el
hearings have been held,
escritorio.
items 3 through
Del
21.
3 al
Items 3
21
through
ya se han
6
oído
are
audiencias públicas, son
commissioners,
comisionados
and that would leave
y
before
eso sería
council items 7
del
through 21.
7 al
Okay, so we're holding
21.
the commission nominees
Los nominados
on the
de
desk,
para
7
comisionados
through 21.
por-
Now before
apartamos en
us,
el
colleagues,
escritorio
these
el
items
7 al
have had
21.
hearings in committee. A motion would be required to reopen the
Estos,
public hearings. If there's no
Esto,
such
si no hay
motion, any
petición para
specials,
volver a
7 through
abrir las
21.
audiencias públicas
Mr.
o alguien
Labange.
que lo pida especial.
19.
El número
19, call
19,
special by Mr.
19 el
Labange.
especial por el señor Labange.
Any other specials?
¿Algún otro especial?
Item 20,
El 20
call special as well.
también se ha pedido como
Any
especial.
other specials?
¿Algún otro especial?
If there's no further specials,
Si no hay
let's
otro
open the
especial,
roll on
entonces
the
vamos
balance
a
of the
pasar
items.
el voto.
Let's hold
en el
item 7 on the
resto
desk
de-
as well, since that's an ordinance.
El
So items 8
12
through
también, eso es
21,
una ordenanza. Así
except
que
for
de las
19 and 20,
el
roll is
7,
open. Let's close the
excepto
roll
19 y 20,
and
se
tabulate the
pasa el
vote.
voto y se
10
tabula.
ayes.
Those
10
items
sí,
are approved.
esos artículos han
Next
sido
item, please.
aprobados.
Next
Estos
items are items for which
procedentes.
public hearings have not been
Los
held.
próximos
Items
son
22
que
through
no se han
42,
escuchado
10
ya.
votes are required for consideration. And there's also a request on item number 29
Audiencia
to continue
pública
that
del
matter
22 al
to
42 y
November
también se pide
29.
que el número
And
29
just to let
se
council know that there
aplace
will
hasta el
be
29 de
a correct
noviembre
report
y
on
habrá
the
un
next week's
reporte
agenda.
correcto con respecto
Okay,
a la
item 29
agenda,
is
a la
continued
agenda de
without
la semana.
objection.
Bien,
Item
entonces se
22 is also
posterga
a
el
commission nominee.
29
We'll hold that on the desk.
sin
Items
oposición.
23 through
Del
42.
23 al
I have
42
cards on item
tengo
30.
tarjetas
32
en el
and
artículo 30,
38. We'll call those
32 y
specials to hear
38.
from members of the public.
Vamos a
On the
llamarlos
balance of the items, I
especiales
do
para
not
que
have,
puedan hablar
speaker cards.
los miembros del público.
Those public
El
hearings
resto,
are opened and
esas audiencias
closed.
públicas se abren y se cierran.
23
Del
through 28
23 al 28
ordinances.
son
So
ordenanzas,
hold those on the
así
desk.
que vamos a apartar
And
esas en el
specials.
escritorio,
Shulabans.
alguno especial. Señor Labange,
Item number 29.
pedir que el número
Would you want to
29
hold that for the new
That's gonna
se
council?
pudiera
continue for a
apartar
week.
ese,
Oh, good.
o
Okay,
sea,
thank you.
posar-
And just to let
Señor
council know, on
Presidente,
item number
para dejar
39, I
saber al
understand that there
el
was
número
Okay, well, let's
enmienda,
hold that on the desk for a
entonces
little while.
vamos a apartarlo entonces en el escritorio por un tiempito.
Okay, on the balance of the
Entonces,
items,
ok,
please open the
en
roll,
el resto
close the
de los
roll,
artículos,
tabulate the vote.
tabulemos
10
el voto,
ayes.
10
Those are
sí,
approved.
se han aprobado.
Next items, please.
next
Próximos-
items on the supplemental
próximos
agenda.
en la-
Item
la
number
agenda
43 is an item
suplemental
for which
del
public
43.
hearing has been held and a
Ya se ha
transportation
escuchado
committee
audiencia
report has
pública
been
y
submitted and
el
distributed to the
comité
council members.
del
Okay, members,
transportación
43
ha
now before
presentado un
us.
reporte, entonces el número
Any
43
request to call
frente a
this item
nosotros.
special?
¿Hay alguien que quiera hablar especial
Perry.
de este, señora Perry?
43
El
on
número
behalf of
3,
Councilmember
en nombre
Parks.
del
Okay,
concejal
we'll call that
Parks,
special.
quiero pedirlo como
Next
especial.
items, please.
Los próximos, por
Items
favor. Entonces,
44
del
through 62 are
44
items
al
for which public hearings have not been
62
held, 10
no se han
votes for
escuchado.
consideration.
Okay, I do have a
Audiencia
card on item
pública, se
44.
necesitan 10
We'll call
votos
that
para
special.
considerarlos.
On the balance of those
Vamos a
items that do not
entonces el
have
número
speaker cards, those
44,
public
no
hearings are
tengo.
open and closed.
Entonces se han abierto y
Specials, Ms.
cerrado
Hahn.
las audiencias
Thank you. Would it be all right if
públicas.
we
Dice-
reconsidered item 13 through
Es posible que
17?
pudiéramos reconsiderar del número
I just
13
had a couple
al
questions to
17.
ask.
Tengo un
Okay,
par
well, we'll come
de
back to that in just a
preguntas.
second.
Regresaremos
Items
ahí
45
en un
through
momento.
62 currently before us. Any specials on these
Del
items?
45
Ms.
al
Perry?
62, ¿algún especial?
55 for Mr. Parks.
55,
Call special.
en nombre del
Any
señor
other
Parks.
specials?
¿Algún otro especial?
If not, then let's open the
Entonces
roll on the
vamos a
balance of the
abrir
items.
Y cerrar el voto.
Close the roll and
Tabulemos.
tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
11
Those are
sí.
approved.
Entonces han sido
Let's now
aprobados.
open the roll on
Vamos
reconsideration
entonces
of
en
items 13 through
reconsideración,
17.
Can I ask a question, Mr.
del
President?
13 al 17. ¿Puedo hacer
Because
una
of my
pregunta,
age, I
señor
missed
presidente?
number 10. Can we reconsider
Porque
item
estoy
10?
viejo,
Let's vote on this motion
perdí el
first.
número 10. Entonces
13 through
vamos a votar
17
del
is now
13 al
before us for
17
reconsideration. Close the roll and tabulate the vote.
y
11
tabulemos el
ayes.
voto.
And those
El
are called
voto
special by Ms. Hahn.
11 sí,
Let's
y
open the
entonces la señora
roll on
Han ha pedido
reconsideration
especial.
of item number 10.
Vamos a abrir el
Close
voto
the
para
roll
reconsideración
and
del
tabulate the
número
vote.
10.
11 ayes.
Tabulemos
Item 10
11
is
sí.
reconsidered and called special by Mr. Labange.
Entonces
Mr.
el
Snyder.
Labange
Mr. President, item number 10,
al número
the police
10.
department's representatives were here when it was passed. I told them
Representantes
they could
del
leave. They've
policía.
already left. If there's any questions from the
Wow,
PD.
it's on the youth
Se puso ya
policy,
ese
right?
son-
Yeah, we
Yes,
can
es la
discuss it,
póliza
but
de
just
la
know that the
juventud,
police
¿correcto?
department folks aren't going to be here for that.
They were here, they've left since it was already approved.
So if we need them to answer any questions, we'll kick it over
Well, I
to
just,
tomorrow. We'll-
pregunta
I
alguna?
let it slip by me because the youth
Sería
policy
posible.
is something I think is important. Could we continue it a day?
La póliza de
Well,
la
let's just see how
juventud
the
es
discussion
importante.
goes. We can still discuss it.
If there's no questions regarding the police involvement, then that's fine.
Si
I
no
just
hay
didn't want
We
preguntas
to...
should talk,
respecto a
if
la
we're talking about
policía.
children, youth, and family to redo the whole youth policy of the city, I think it's,
Si
I don't want to let it
vamos a
slip away.
rehacer
Mr.
la
Labange,
póliza
we'll discuss
de
it today. It's called special and
a
it's
nombre de
before
la
us today.
juventud en la ciudad, no quiero
Madam
eso,
Clerk, is that the
lo
end of our
pediremos
agenda?
especial. Señora,
Yes, it is, Mr. President.
Okay.
la
Colleagues,
secretaria,
also
es
want
el
to
final de
recognize
nuestra
that we do
agenda.
have some
Colegas,
presentations
tenemos
today.
presentaciones
Before
también
we get to the
hoy.
presentations,
Así que
let's get
antes de
to
llegar a las presentaciones,
general
quisiera
public comment
primero que
for
nada hacer el
today's meeting.
comentario.
As you know, this is an opportunity
Públicos
for members of
por
the public to
la
address
junta
the
del día de
council
hoy.
on matters
Es la oportunidad que
within
tiene
our
el público.
jurisdiction, but not appearing on today's agenda. We have a number of folks here in
Hay un
council
número
chambers
aquí
who
de
want to
personas que
address the
quieren
council. We
dirigirse
also
al
have, for the first time,
concilio
folks
y por primera
ready
vez
to
también
submit
tenemos
general public comment from a remote
comentarios
location,
públicos de
Van Nuys. So let's begin with the folks here in council chambers and call forward Bob
una localidad
Aquino
remota de Van Nuys
and any
por
else is
cámara.
part of your
¿Hay alguien
delegation.
más que alguna otra delegación que quiera presentarse?
Robert Aquino, I'm the Executive
Robert
Director with
Aquino,
Engineers and
soy representante-
Architects Association, IUPA Local 8000. Thank you,
Soy
Mr.
jefe de
President.
ingenieros y
Thank you, council
arquitectos
members, for the opportunity to speak.
del sindicato
I have a very brief comment to
14.000.
make, and
Tengo
I'll
un
get with
comentario
it.
breve y voy a llegar
EAA members,
inmediatamente.
6 of our MOUs have been open for almost
6 de
17 months. They
MOUs están
expired
abiertos hace
in June
17
June
meses,
30th of
caducaron
19,
el 30 de junio
2004.
el contrato del
In this
2004.
council chambers
En
are
este
just a
concilio, en
small
esta Cámara de
fraction
Concilio hay un
of the members EAA
verdaderamente un
represents.
número
Your
pequeño
employees standing behind
de los
me are
miembros que
the
representan
governors of
a sus
EAA.
empleados y aquí están los gobernadores
We
de
made every attempt to try to settle
Hemos,
these
hemos
MOUs
hecho
on a fair
todo
basis And for the last several
lo
months,
posible
I
para
have
tratar
been
de
respectfully
resolver estos
advising that
problemas en
events
los
would overtake us
próximos
because our
meses.
members were starting to get the
He
impression that
aconsejado que los
the city didn't
miembros
reward
ya
faithful,
tienen la
diligent
impresión que
service,
el
but rather
servicio
only rewarded the ability to
dan
disrupt service to the citizens of the
diligencia,
city.
pero solamente se
These
le
people do
dan
not want to do that.
dinero, cuando ellos tienen que
But
interrumpir el
something has
servicio.
occurred as a result of
Pero ha
how we've been treated in the
pasado algo,
negotiations
la
that's a
manera que
little
nos han
different.
tratado en las
In EAA's
negociaciones.
history,
En la
we've
historia
never
de
had a
IEE nunca hemos
union-wide
tenido
strike vote. On Sunday,
un voto
very many more members than
aprobando
this
una
voted
huelga
almost unanimously
y los miembros el
that we
domingo
should either be
votaron
offered the
casi
same
unánimemente
offer that
que
went to
tienen
DWP, local
nosotros
18
necesitamos la misma
employees,
oferta
or
de los
else we
empleados
should
del
use all
DWP,
economic actions
o
up
si
to
no
and
vamos
including
a
a
terminar
strike
todas las
to obtain that
acciones,
offer.
vamos a tomar todas las acciones para poder obtener esa oferta, esa misma oferta.
Fully 120 to 140
100 a
classifications of
120
DWP are
clasificaciones del
identical
Departamento de
to the
Electricidad y Agua
classifications of work performed by these your
son
employees.
idénticas a las
There is
clasificaciones que
absolutely
están,
no justification
que están
as
siendo
to why these employees should be treated as second-class citizens.
y no hay razón
Fully
por la cual
1,800
debemos
of the
ser
members I
tratados
represent work
diferentemente.
at the
1,800
proprietaries
de los
like
miembros
DBS
trabajan en
Airports,
las
Port of LA, CDD, Aging, many of which
en
are
los
fully
aeropuertos
funded and
y
are separate,
tienen
operated
fondos y
from the
son
city, just as DWP is.
operadas fuera de la ciudad, igual que
The city
el
is
Departamento
wanting,
de
or
Electricidad
has
y
been
Agua.
wanting us to
La
take an
ciudad
offer that
quiere
would
que
be a
nosotros
decrease in buying power, cut and pay for my
aceptemos
members,
una
because
oferta
the
que es
CPI, the
una
cost price
rebaja
index, has exceeded
en-
the offer
para
that the
mis
city
miembros,
wants to give us.
porque se
EAA
ha
members are not
excedido la
willing to
oferta
accept
que la
that. And what
que la
we're
ciudad
here
quiere
today to
darnos. Los
ask,
miembros
because
de
we have always
IEA no
found you to be
quieren
fair
aceptar
and
eso.
just, and
Y la
that's why
razón
we're
que estamos
before you.
aquí y nos
We're
presentamos
here to
frente a
respectfully
ustedes porque
demand
siempre
that we
sabemos que
get
ustedes siempre han
equal
sido
pay for
justos.
equal work.
Nosotros necesitamos el pago igual por el trabajo igual, pago igual, trabajo igual, pago igual.
Thank you for the opportunity to
Gracias por la
speak before
oportunidad de
you
hablar
today.
frente a ustedes en el día de hoy.
Very much.
Muchas gracias. Ese es el sindicato de
And as many of you as would like are welcome to stay, please be advised there is an overflow room. I believe it's the Public Works hearing room that we've arranged to have open so you can follow council deliberations.
es el sindicato
If you
de
choose to leave,
Asociación
please do
de
so quietly at this
Arquitectos de la
time.
Ciudad. Por
And
favor,
Fire
les pido
Marshal will now
que se
begin to
vayan
enforce, further enforce the rules. We
claramente
have additional
aquí
speakers under
y
general public
pacíficamente de
comments.
aquí
Let me read off
de
names and ask
la
you to form
Cámara
a
del
line behind the
Concilio.
podium. Paul
En los
McLaughlin,
comentarios públicos
Gabe
que tenemos que
Furman,
nos quedan aquí.
Scott
Paul
Weinberg,
McLaughlin,
Caitlin Flaxman,
las personas
Molly,
que se
I believe
presentan
it's Lollins, Amanda
ahora
Bourne,
para
Bill
son los
Bryan,
parlantes
Jonathan
públicos que quieren
Collars, all affiliated with the
presentarse a
Renaissance
hablar con el
Academy.
Consejo. En estos momentos le pido que se pongan en fila atrás del estrado.
Gentlemen, please come forward. We have other speakers waiting.
Preséntense, señores, tenemos otros parlantes que también
And
quieren
there's
hablar.
quite a group of you, so if
Hay un
there's one or
grupo
two who would
bastante
like to
grande
speak
de
on behalf
ustedes,
of the
así
group,
que
that would be much
uno o dos, por
appreciated.
favor, que puedan hablar a nombre del grupo. Se apreciaría.
Sir, we're waiting.
Hi, my name is
Estamos
Paul
esperando.
McLaughlin. I'm
Mi
principal
nombre
of
es Paul
Renaissance Academy
McLaughlin.
Charter
Soy,
School. And first, I'd like
director
to
del
thank the council for
Renaissance
letting us have
Academy
this opportunity
Charter
to speak. And I would
School.
most
Me agrada que me
definitely
da
like
la
to personally
oportunidad de
thank
hablar
our
y en
council
persona
person,
quiero
Councilman
dar las gracias al
Rosendahl,
concejal
for all the
Rosendahl que
hard
nos
work
ha
and
dado
effort
esta
that he's
oportunidad, todo el trabajo
gone
que él ha hecho a
to help
nombre
ensure
de
that our
nosotros
school
para asegurarse que
survives.
nuestra escuela
Renaissance
sobreviva.
Academy is a
El
charter high
Renaissance
school,
Academy es
and
una escuela de
it is a small
de la
learning
ciudad.
community. The
Es una
philosophy of the
comunidad
school is to provide
pequeña
a nurturing
de educativa,
environment for high
proporcionando
school students to learn
medio
in an
ambiente
environment of mutual respect
apropiado
and understanding
para los estudiantes
so
para
that they may
que
flourish
aprendan
and be
respeto
educated
mutuo y que ellos se
to be
desarrollen,
responsible,
que
caring
puedan
citizens
sean
in our
ciudadanos
democratic society.
responsables
I don't really want to speak too much.
en nuestra
I
ciudad.
just want to introduce
Realmente no
our
quiero
student
hablar
body
mucho, quiero presentar
president,
aquí al
Gabriel
presidente
Furman,
del concilio
and he
de
will speak on
estudiantes
behalf of
y él
our
va a
school.
hablar a nombre de nuestra escuela.
Okay, my name is Gabriel Furman. I'm the student
Mi
body
nombre es
president
Gabriel
of RA.
Furman, soy
In the past,
presidente
I've
del
gone to Pali
concilio
High, and I've also done City of
de
Angels,
RA.
schools that I consider to be the two
Anteriormente,
extremes
dos
on the
escuelas que
spectrum.
son
Pali High is a school where the individual is,
extremos, Valley High,
underrated, and they don't really
una escuela en que
work
el
to make
individuo
things right for you
no
because you're just a
se
statistic
puede
among the thousands of
sobresaltar
others.
porque usted verdaderamente es solamente una
However,
estadística,
Pali does have a
porque
vivacious
hay
social
miles y miles de
climate with all the
estudiantes,
action
pero
clubs
el
and teams and so
otro,
forth.
en Valley
City of
High hay
Angels was a bit
muchos,
different, being independent
porque
study
hay
or LUSD's version of
demasiados,
homeschooling. They work for you on a completely personal basis to make
equipos y
everything work for you,
comités.
but they don't have that much in the way of social stuff, seeing as you don't see the other students that much.
no nos,
But then there was RA. It's the only school that I've ever
RA
seen bridge the gap, bringing
ha sido
flexibility
la
and
única
personalization
escuela que
of independent study with the
tiene
social climate
flexibilidad de estudios
of,
independiente con
Pali High with the clubs and
actividades
teams of conventional high schools,
sociales
melded so seamlessly
de
that I
los,
believe is the most successful high school of its kind.
de las escuelas
Or at least that it has the
tradicionales.
potential
Es
to be.
la única escuela
My wish is for the
que
school
tiene
to
el
survive and
potencial de
flourish. And I
ser,
think that the fact that
y
we have
lo
so
que
many
quiero es que
students
esta escuela,
still
este
attending
tipo
with
de
all the
escuela se
hoops that we've been
desarrolle.
forced to jump through shows just
Así
how special
todo
the school is to
tenemos
us.
estudiantes que
We just want to be allowed a
todavía
fair
están
chance to
acudiendo a la
succeed.
escuela, aunque
Because
nos han puesto
given
tantos
that we will
obstáculos.
exceed even our own
Lo que
expectations,
queremos
help
es
save my school,
que
our school.
esta escuela siga progresando, que
you.
siga desarrollándose. Ayúdennos a salvar a nuestra escuela. Buenas,
We don't have the same
no,
contingent as the Association of
no
Engineers
tenemos
and
el mismo
Architects.
número de la Asociación de
Because
Ingenieros
my
y
name is Scott
Arquitectos. Mi
Weinberg. I'm
nombre
a
es
parent of
Scott
Renaissance
Weinberg.
Academy,
Soy
or a
padre
student at
en
Renaissance
Renaissance
Academy High
Academy.
School.
O
Our contingent is at
estudiante.
school. The students are in classes.
escuela
They're in the third building they've had
es
to occupy this year because
nuestra
our charter
membresía.
school doesn't have a
Hemos estado
facility
ya
yet.
en 3 edificios
The community still
diferentes.
coheres. We have
Así
most of our
todo,
students together in spite of many
La
difficulties, and
comunidad
we're
se
here to
une
ask for
y
your help
estamos aquí para
to secure a
pedirles
location
su
for our
ayuda
school. We've been
para
doing
poder
everything
asegurar una
according to due
localidad
process
fija
to secure a
para nuestras
location we
escuelas.
have
Hemos
found
hecho
in
todo
West
lo que
LA,
podemos
and we're having
para
a difficult time
quedarnos en una
getting
localidad que
the
hemos encontrado en West LA.
discretionary support
Y así
of building and
todo
safety.
un
We've gotten
momentos
great
muy
support from the
difícil.
city council, our city council representative,
Gran
but we're
apoyo
finding
del
that we're
representante del
having to deal with very
concilio,
difficult adherence to rules and not much discretion
pero
when
no hay
the thing that's at risk is the education of 200 students who care about their
investigaciones
school
con
and
respecto a lo
whose
que se
school, after
arriesga
1 year,
es
ranked in the top 10
los 200,
in LA public schools. And this is a charter school
que
that's
en
suffering
una
at the
los
hands
200
of a
estudiantes que
lot of
acuden aquí,
bureaucracy
una escuela
when the
que
50%
se
dropout
ha
rate in LA
nombrado
schools
el
has been persistent
número 10
under its current
en un
administration
año de
for years.
existencia.
We've got a top 10
Tenemos
school that's
una
working
escuela
in spite of
en-
not having a location, and we're not getting the help
Estamos
that the
trabajando
school should be
aunque
getting
no
to
tenemos
have
una
a home.
localidad y no
Anyway, that's all I've got to say, so
y no nos
please
dan
help.
ayuda
Thank you.
para encontrar una localidad fija.
And
Y
again,
somos
if
una de las
just
escuelas
two more
consideradas
speakers can
en los
finish on behalf
número
of the group,
10,
we'd appreciate it.
Por favor, dos
My name
parlantes
is
más que
Molly
puedan
Collins. I
terminar.
am
Mi
the
nombre es
Vice
Molly
President
Collins.
of the
Soy
Renaissance Academy
vicepresidente
Student Body.
de Renaissance Academy
I'm here
Student
today to ask for your help.
Party. Estoy aquí para pedir su
Renaissance
ayuda.
is like a second home to
Renaissance
me.
es como
At
mi
the end of ninth
segundo
grade,
hogar.
before I switched to
Cuando
Renaissance, I
terminé
was a total
el
mess.
grado
I had
noveno
failed 2 of my
grado,
classes, my parents had just gotten
había
divorced,
fracasado,
and I had a lot
en
of
dos de
anger
mis,
inside of me. I dreaded going to school
clases,
because
mis
I knew I
padres
hadn't done
habían
the
acabado
assignments.
divorciado.
It's been over a
Tenía un
year, and I've
miedo
done a complete 180.
aterrorizante a
I'm
ir a la
getting A's
escuela
in school
porque
again, and I've never been happier in my life.
sabía que las
Both of these
clases me
things
iban
I
a hacer lo
attribute to
suficiente.
Renaissance.
Ahora
In my ethics class, I
saco
learned how to
A's
see the
en
beauty
todas
in
mis
life and accept
asignaturas.
myself and all other beings as equals. My teachers have given me
Y
all sorts of
en un
opportunities to
año
learn in ways I was never
he
allowed before.
cambiado de una manera
I had a
increíble.
teacher at Renaissance
Tuve una
that showed me that I
maestra
have the
en
power inside
Renaissance
of
que
me to make
tengo
a
el
difference in
poder
this world,
dentro de
and I
mí
plan on doing it too.
para hacer,
No one had ever shown me that I could do something like that before.
para hacer una gran diferencia.
Every day I go to Renaissance,
mundo,
and I'm
todos los
so
días
grateful
voy a
to be there.
Renaissance
I'm
y
so glad that I go to a school where, unlike so many other schools,
Doy
I can be
gracias por estar
myself.
ahí.
And
En
I
esa
can
escuela
approach
yo
a teacher
puedo
with a question without
desarrollarme
being
a mí misma,
ridiculed.
puedo
And most of
acercarme
all,
a
I'm
una
grateful to
maestra
be
o
at a
un
school
maestro
where I
una
am being
pregunta
challenged
sin que
every
me
day to think of new
ni
ideas and
siquiera
challenge the
me hagan
existing
el
theories.
ridículo.
Right here in this room,
Aquí
you have the
hoy
future.
mismo,
If you look
ustedes
at me and
tienen
my
el
friends, you will
futuro. Si
see the
usted ve
future.
a
The
mis
students of
amigos,
Renaissance are
verán
going to
mi
be the ones
futuro.
that make the
Los
changes that
estudiantes de
affect
Renaissance
the entire world.
van a
I
ser
look at Gabriel, our president,
los,
and I think, wow, this kid is going to cure cancer one day.
van a
And I
ser
look at Amanda and I think, when she's the president of the
medidas que
United
cambios.
States,
Veo a
is she going to
Gabriel
remember me? And Caitlin, you know, she could make the world
y
laugh.
a mis compañeros.
We're your biggest assets here. Please don't let us get left behind.
Somos aquí los mejores representantes de la juventud.
Renaissance Academy is not only
No
a
nos
school to me,
fallen.
but also a
Renaissance no es
family that
solamente una
cares about
escuela,
one another and
es una
encourages
familia
academically and
que se
creatively.
ocupa de unos
Transferring
a
from
otro.
Hamilton High School
Al
Humanities
transferir de
magnet after
Hamilton
ninth grade. I never
High
expected
School
Renaissance to be what it has
del
been.
programa del
A place
Magneto, nunca
where
esperé
students
que
thrive
Renaissance
and
iba a
excel in
ser
all aspects.
que los
Renaissance provides the
estudiantes
academics, but
son
is a place where I
excelencias
do not
en
feel
todo
threatened by the
aspecto.
other students
No
and
me
provides me with
siento
the
amenazada por otros
security I need to
estudiantes
truly blossom and reach my
y
potential.
me han
This has been a
proporcionado la
common
seguridad
experience
que
among my fellow
necesito para
classmates at
poder
Renaissance. I'm here to ask the
desarrollarme
City
en todo
Council to take
aspecto.
a
Le pido al Concilio de la
positive
ciudad
action
que
on our
tomen acción
behalf.
positiva
Please
a
exercise the
nombre de
powers of your
nosotros,
office to ensure
que
the
ocupen los
survival of this
poderes
amazing institution.
de las
I hope that your
posiciones de
children,
ustedes
nieces, and nephews, and
para
even your
ayudar a
grandchildren
esta
would
institución.
become a part
Esperamos
of
que
part of
sus
Renaissance and flourish like the
sobrinos,
current
sus hijos y
students
sus,
are.
hasta
Thank you.
incluso sus nietos
And your name, ma'am?
se unirán
Amanda Bourne.
Okay, thank you.
a Renaissance. Y su nombre, Amanda Bourne.
I'd like to just make a closing. Do we have a couple of seconds here to make a
Tengo
closing
un par de
comment?
segundos para
We've brought
cerrar. Hemos traído
some examples of our student work and a petition with
ejemplos aquí,
hundreds and hundreds of
ejemplares de
signatures
los trabajos
of parents, students, people who really
de
want to
los
participate in this school.
estudiantes,
One thing
cientos y
that I'm very
cientos
proud
de-
of is that in our first year of operation,
En nuestro
we
primer
received
año
our
de
WASC
operación,
accreditation. We're a fully WASC
hemos
accredited
ya
school. I brought the certificate
recibido
here.
nuestra
We've also inspired a
acreditación.
great deal of passion
Hemos
among
inspirado una
our
gran
constituents.
pasión
But we are now standing on the threshold
entre
of getting
nuestros
into our
constituentes,
location, and
pero
we have one
estamos
stumbling
en el
block.
portal
According to every
de
professional
entrar en nuestra
that we
localidad fija
have
y según
hired,
cada
gotten the advice
profesional
of, we are
hemos recibido
simply
el
looking
consejo,
at
simplemente queremos
we have done what we need to do
hemos hecho lo que
to our
tenemos que
building, to the
hacer
best of our
para el
knowledge,
edificio,
to be able to move
según
into
nuestro
our
mejor
building.
conocimiento para
And
poder
I've been told
mudarnos para nuestro
that
edificio. Y ahora
all
lo
we
que me
need
dicen es que todo lo que necesitamos
is
es
for somebody
que alguien
to take a chance with us
se arriesgue con
and
nosotros
support us to
y
actually
nos
get into our
apoye
building.
para poder
We have a safe
ocupar
building, we have a
el
secure
edificio,
building,
tenemos
we have
un-
met all fire life safety issues,
un edificio seguro.
and
Hemos
we
cumplido
are
con
ready to move into
todos
our
los
home.
asuntos
As
con
you can see,
respecto
we
a
have a school, we have a community.
fuego.
Bricks and mortar do not make a school.
tenemos una escuela,
But you
tenemos
do
una
need a
comunidad.
building to hold
Ladrillos
school.
y
We have the
cemento
school,
no,
we have the
no es lo
building.
que componen una
It's
escuela.
time to put those
Tenemos
two
la
together
escuela,
and
tenemos el
really have the
edificio.
success
Y
story
es
play
hora
out
de que
the way
estos dos aspectos se
should.
unan
And we
y que
really
se
need
desarrolle la escuela de la manera que
think
debe. Y
about those
necesitamos
hundreds of
pensar
school children who
esos
right now
cientos
are
de
sitting in their
niños
classrooms
están ahora mismo
in temporary
sentados
facilities learning.
en aulas.
We need to give them their
en
home. They've waited long enough.
Okay. Thank you.
localidades temporales. Esperando. Gracias.
Mr. President,
Señor presidente,
I'm not part of this group. I'd like to
no
address
soy
the council on the
parte
same matter briefly.
Your name, sir?
My name is Bill
de
Bryan.
este-
I'm the
mi
former
nombre es Bill
president of the
Bryan,
Renaissance
soy-
Academy Board of Directors.
de la Junta Directiva
Go ahead, sir.
de la Renaissance Academy.
I'd just like to very
Quisiera
briefly speak in favor of
brevemente
people who
hablar a
don't
favor
often
de
get
las personas que no
praised, namely city bureaucrats. In this
recientemente
case, the people at the
no le
Department of
dan
Building and Safety. Last year, when I served as president of the Renaissance County Board of Directors, when I came on board,
Cuando
I found
yo
a very, very difficult situation faced the school. Because of certain
llegué
actions that had been
allá a la
taken
Junta
before I
Directiva,
became
tuve
involved,
muchos
before some other
problemas,
board members became
muchas
involved.
dificultades
Excuse me.
antes de yo
The school
involucrarme
found
en
itself
esta
at odds
escuela.
with virtually everyone, with
Esa
its
escuela
landlord, with the Pacific Palisades
se-
community,
verdaderamente
and with
se-
the city
tenía muchos
agencies that were
problemas
charged
con
with
los
making sure that the
dueños,
school operated
la comunidad de
in a
Pacific
manner that was
Palisades y
consistent with fire,
todas las
life safety
regulaciones
issues.
que estaba operando la
My
escuela,
experience
la
over the
manera
course
que
of many
debían,
months
y
of
mi
working
experiencia
intensively with
después
the
de
department, with
trabajar
Superintendent Mr. Edelman, with the head of
intensivamente con
inspection,
el
Mr. Martin,
superintendente, el
was
señor Averman,
completely at odds
es
with what you've heard
completamente
several of the
opuesto
speakers here this
a
morning
lo
say.
que ha dicho
The department
los
bent over
parlantes
backwards,
aquí.
in
El
many cases
departamento
actually surprising those of us who were
trató de
arguing
ayudar
in
a
favor of the
todos,
school
hasta incluso
to keep the school open and make it
sorprendiéndonos a
work. And in
muchos que
fact, we did
estábamos
keep it open for the entire
hablando
year in spite of the
de
fact
las
that
escuelas,
the
y en
law
efecto
in many
es que
cases
lo tuvimos
didn't really
abierto
seem
por
to
el año,
support that position. They
aunque las
did so for
leyes
one reason,
verdaderamente no
because it was a
apoyaban esa
school and
posición.
because they felt
Lo
that it
hicieron
was the right
porque
thing
era
to
una
do and
escuela
because
y
a lot of us
pensaban que era
advocated very
lo
forcefully
correcto de haber hecho.
on the school's
Y
behalf.
algunos
To
nosotros
hear today
hablamos a favor
the department and
de la
other
escuela
agencies be
hoy. En el
accused
día de hoy,
of
las
some sort of
agencias que están
bureaucratic
sido
foot dragging or having any
acusadas
agenda
de
other than
tener
doing their jobs is grossly
demoras con la
unfair to
burocracia,
those
es
city
injusta
employees,
para los
and I
empleados de
didn't
la
want to
ciudad,
let that
y yo
comment go unanswered.
no quería
Thank you.
que ese
very much.
comentario fuera,
And
se
if
dijera
it's okay
sin
with you, I will
oposición.
add Caitlin and
Y sí,
Jonathan's card to the record as well.
voy a añadir
Thank you
las
for being here.
tarjetas de Caitlin y
Colleagues, I know
Jonathan
we've
al acta.
gone over our
Hemos
standard
ya
10 minutes for public
hemos
comments. Let me
sobrepasado
recognize Mr.
los,
Rosendahl for a minute and then
el
Mr.
señor
Hunt for a minute, but
Rosendahl
we
por
do
un
have
minuto y la
plenty of
señora
other
Hunt, pero
speaker
tenemos
cards under general
muchas,
public
muchas,
comment, so
muchas
do want to get back to them as soon as
tarjetas con
possible.
respecto a
Mr.
comentarios
Rosendahl.
públicos,
Thank
así
you,
que
Mr. President. And
gracias,
to my
señor
colleagues,
presidente, y según
it has been
mis
brought to your
colegas,
attention just now an issue
y como
in
ustedes
the
han visto
11th
aquí, se ha
district. And there are
subrayado
many
un
sides to
asunto
this
en el
issue, as you've
distrito
heard
11. Hay
from both
muchos
sides of the issue.
asuntos
I
pendientes
certainly am excited about the
ambos
educational
lados
opportunities
opuestos
that the
con
Renaissance
respecto a estos
School
problemas.
provides its students. And I applaud the students for coming
estoy
before us today and
mucho
sharing with
conocimiento
us
con
their
lo que le
personal
proporciona el
experiences
Renaissance
on
School a
how
los
it works.
estudiantes.
I have met with the
Y
parents.
me agrada que hayan
I have met with
compartido,
the students,
me he reunido
and I
con
am
los
very
padres,
impressed
me he
with the
reunido con
concept
los
of
estudiantes y
education
estoy
that has given young people a
verdaderamente
real
muy
chance to become who
impresionado
they want
con
to
este
be.
concepto
And I support
y
them
que le ha dado a
100%
esta
in their
juventud
pursuit of a good
ser lo
education.
que
Secondly,
ellos-
I've just spoken to the
los dones
LAUSD,
que
and
ellos
they have
quieren
told
desarrollar.
me that they are
Y me he
determined to find
reunido
a location
hoy
that
y
will
me han
work
dicho
to
que
educate these young people. I
están-
believe that LAUSD
tienen
will come up with a facility that
determinación
will meet the
incluida.
needs.
Y lo
As
que
one of the
pienso
speakers
es
did
que
mention,
el
building and
LAUSD,
safety
el
has
Sitio
issues.
Escolar
They
de Los
passed out
Ángeles,
to all of us an
van a
update on the
buscarle
status of that
una
one
localidad
location. But I want to make
población,
it clear to my colleagues that it is
una
my
localidad
goal to
permanente,
see
pero
that
quiero
these
aclararles a
students
mis
get an
colegas
opportunity
que
to
es
get the
mi
education that
meta
they're
que
doing
estos
in a facility
estudiantes
and be able
puedan
to stay
recibir
in
la
that
educación que
facility
están
until
haciendo
they get
en
their
esa
degrees.
localidad
So I
y
applaud
que
you
pueden
all.
hablar.
Thank you very much.
Entonces los aplaudo a ustedes
Thank
y
you. I just
creo que
really
se
want
van
to
a
thank
poder
all
quedar.
of you for
Quiero
coming
dar las
down
gracias
here
a
this
ustedes
morning.
por
It was
llegar aquí.
very inspiring to listen to young people who are so excited about their
verdaderamente
education.
es una gran
And I hope the young
inspiración
woman
que
that becomes president of the
ver a
United
estas
States will also
juventudes y la
remember all
muchacha
of
que
us
se va a el
around
presidente de los
this
Estados Unidos
city
se va a acordar de
council.
nosotros aquí,
And
a
I
todos
truly
aquí en
want
la
to applaud
Cámara
my
del
colleague
Concilio.
Bill
Quiero
Rosendahl
aplaudir
for
a mi
his
concilio
involvement in this
y quiero
process
involucrar
and his
y quiero
willingness to meet
también
with the
darle las
community
gracias
and the
al
parents,
concejal
because there was a
Rosendahl
lot of
porque él
confusion
tenía
about why these students
mucha
weren't in
voluntad
the
para
building.
reunirse
And I
con
will
la
say this
comunidad
as
y
a
los
general
padres. Y hubo
comment,
mucha
colleagues.
confusión con
Charter high
respecto a por qué no se
schools
querían
are
quedar
here.
con Colonia.
They are not going
Charter
anywhere.
they are
high
the wave
schools
of the
están
future.
Están aquí y se van a
And-
quedar.
And
Son el
unfortunately, the LA
Y
Unified School District
desafortunadamente, el Distrito
basically
Escolar de
gives
Los Ángeles
these
les da
schools
a
their
estas escuelas
charter
Y
and
si
then
tienen charter
says
y les
goodbye and
dice
good luck.
adiós
And
y
if
buena
that
suerte.
school
Y
happens
si
to
esa
be
escuela
built within our city of Los Angeles,
por
it really
casualidad
does
está
fall
aquí en
on
la ciudad de Los
us
Ángeles,
and our building and
verdaderamente
safety
es la
inspectors and
responsabilidad
our
de
fire
nosotros y los
departments and
inspectores
all
de
the agencies
seguridad de
that go with
edificios y todas
permitting
las
any sort
agencias
of
que
a use in our city.
piden
And you should
permisos al
know
uso de nuestra
that for
ciudad.
us,
Y
the
deben
number
saber
one thing is
ustedes
public
que lo
safety.
más
The
primero
number
es
one thing for us
seguridad
is, we love your
pública
minds
es
and
la
we
más
love your
importante.
passion and we
Nos
love your belief in your
mucho su
future, but we
pasión,
want to make
sus
sure you're
mentes
safe,
y
and that has to be number one for us.
su
I have a charter
inspiración
high
para el
school being
futuro,
formed
pero
in San Pedro as
seguridad
well.
pública es
They're
lo
going through
más
some of the very
importante.
similar things that you're going through, but I will
Tengo una
say
escuela
that our
charter
building
que
and
se está
safety
formando en San
team, our
Pedro y están
firefighters, they're
San
working
Pedro y están
overtime
pasando por
to
lo
make
mismo que
sure
ustedes,
that
pero
this
quiero
building
decirles que
that
los
San Pedro is
empleados de
going
la
to move
ciudad
into is safe and ready to open. But I'll tell you what, my students in
están
San Pedro are in a
trabajando
temporary facility right
24
now.
horas al
They've
día
not
para
been able to move into
asegurarse
their
que
new facility
van a
yet.
poder
On that note,
mudarse
I'm
los estudiantes
considering
de San
introducing a
Pedro.
motion that we create in the city an
Y
office
aquí en
for
la
charter
ciudad.
schools.
Y lo que yo sugiero es que se cree aquí
Because
en la
I
ciudad
think we
una
need one
oficina
place in the
para
city where we
escuelas
can
charter,
marshal
porque
all of our
creo que
resources.
necesitamos
We can work together to really expedite
oficina, un lugar
some of
en nuestra
these
ciudad
schools
para que se
being
puedan
formed and, of course, being
expedir
safe. Because I think we're going to
estas
have
escuelas
them coming to us as
para que se
fast as
sigan
we can keep
formando,
up with
porque
them. It is the
verdaderamente
wave
creo
of the
que van a
future,
llegar a
and I think we
nosotros
should be ready for
mucho
that.
más
We should
rápidos.
support it
Es
and
el
do any
futuro
way
y
we can
tenemos
to
que
marshal our
apoyarlo y
resources
hacer
in the city to
reunir
help
todos
these
nuestros
kids
recursos para
have the
ayudar
future they're
a
hoping for. And I hope you all
este
support me in
tipo
that.
de
A lot of people
juventud
talking about
que
education these
busquen el
days.
futuro y hay mucha gente que está
I know
hablando
you're
de
pushing
educación
the button
en
again. I
estos
do want
días.
to get back to public comment, so
Sé
if
que
it's
usted
something quick.
oprimió, marcó su
1
botón otra
second to
vez.
say I applaud my
Comentario porque
colleague
quiero
for
aplaudir a
suggesting
mi
a
colega
motion
para
to
sugerir
give a central coordination for charter schools. I would certainly
la
second that
petición para
motion.
coordinar
Charter schools need all the support they can get
escuelas.
from us. It's a great concept and it's something that you and I know many of our
Es un
colleagues
gran
strongly believe in. Thank you for that
concepto, es
thought.
algo que todos
Okay.
apoyamos.
Coming back to
Gracias.
general public comment.
Comentarios
And for all
públicos
of
que
you
sigan.
in Van Nuys watching and waiting, we'll be with you in just a couple of minutes.
Y
But I do
todos
want to
los que
call
están en Van
forward
Nuys miran,
Robert Jimenez,
sintonizados y
followed by
esperando.
Ken Marsh,
Estaremos con
Dorothy
ustedes dentro de
Nichols,
minutos.
Martin Rubin,
Hay otros
Sheila
parlantes de comentarios
Charles
públicos
Fisher,
y quiero
and
pedirles que
Teresa
se
Maria
acerquen al
McClendon.
estrado.
And if you would all form a line behind
Si
the
pudieran
podium, that would
formar
certainly
una
expedite
fila
our public
atrás
comment
del
period.
estrado, se los agradeceríamos mucho.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Robert Jimenez. I'm the president of
Gracias,
the Boyle
mi
Heights Neighborhood
nombre es
Council, and I'm here with
Robert
Secretary
Jiménez, soy
Martha
presidente del
Cincinnati.
concilio de
We're here today to go ahead and award this
Heights.
plaque to
Estamos
Councilman
aquí para
Labange
entregarle
in
esta placa
appreciation for
al
his
concejal
support
Labange, apreciando
and moving
su apoyo
on
y
having our
al movernos
first parade in Boyle Heights.
hacia adelante para
I'd also like to thank all the other
ayudarnos
council
con
members
las
in order
escuelas
of
en Boyle
support.
Heights y también a los otros miembros
Thank you
del
for this great
concilio.
plaque. Boyle Heights is a
Les
great
doy las
neighborhood. My
gracias,
mother was
Boyle
born in Lincoln
Heights.
Heights, but Boyle Heights is special,
Es una vecindad muy
one of the
buena.
greatest
Mi
bridges
mamá
in the
nació en
city
Lincoln
comes
Heights,
the
así
6th
que
Street
uno de los
Bridge into
mejores
town. Congratulations
puentes
to Boyle
aquí
Heights
de
on
la
your first
ciudad,
parade. Thank you so
el
much.
puente de la calle 6.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Gracias.
much. Next speaker, please. Please introduce yourself.
Su parlante, por favor.
My name is Ken
Mi
Marsh.
nombre
I'm
es
with the
Ken
Mar
Marsh.
Vista Community
Estoy
Council.
con el
And,
Mar Vista Community Council.
This is regarding the fight that I've been
Con
involved with
respecto
fellow
al-
neighbors
La
to
pelea en que
preserve
he
an
estado con
historic
mis
site,
vecinos para
which is
preservar
also people's homes and among the remaining affordable housing
un
in our
sitio
area,
histórico
which I'm talking about is Mar
y
Vista
hablo
Westdale.
de Mar Vista
Though
Westdale.
we are regularly
Aunque
accused of being NIMBYs,
no se nos acusan.
NIMBY is not a knee-jerk reaction to progress. It is a cry against abuse of public interest and a proactive attempt to prevent disruption of our lives and a fight against
Lo que estamos
things that
tratando de
destroy our
hacer
community.
es
As regards preservation of the
desarrollando
Westdale
una
Village
pelea para las
Courtyard
cosas que
Apartments,
destruyan,
if
que
NIMBY
destruyen
means
nuestra comunidad.
don't exclude me from
NIMBY,
having a say in and about my
Si es lo que quiere
neighborhood,
decir,
we are definitely NIMBY.
no me acusen a mí de
Developers with
no
property
hablar con
that
respecto a
are
las cosas que tienen que ver con mi
that are
comunidad,
designated historic,
con respecto a las propiedades que son
could have found out where the community
designadas
stood before they
históricas.
started their projects and aroused the NIMBYism they say they're confronted with. Early involvement of community in planning and in
La
specific
comunidad se ha
projects
involucrado
must be the
en
rule for
proyectos
all our
especiales.
benefit.
Tiene
It's
que
time the
ser
city
lo que
stop
hacen para
ignoring
beneficios de
community
lo que se
concerns
hace para
and
beneficio de
start
todos. Tenemos que
integrating them
ignorar,
from the onset of projects
la ciudad
before
no
a
puede
penny is spent.
ignorar
No developer in his
las
or her right
consideraciones
mind
de la ciudad
would not
antes de
research the
gastar
investment
dinero.
aspects of a project before buying in. Why not the same for community concerns? The
Si no-
designating of
ellos no-
historical
si la
cultural
ciudad no
monuments
invierte
should not
un
be tainted by
centavo
concerns of property
antes de
rights
averiguar
and investment
todos los
risks or
detalles de
concerns,
un
on the other hand,
proyecto,
for
tiene
increasing
que ser
housing stock,
igual
just
con
as it
respecto
cannot be
a las
considered
consideraciones
affordable
de los
housing,
miembros de
just
la
as it
comunidad.
cannot consider affordable housing and tenant dislocation issues. The focus should be the
El
ordinance
foco tiene
and the
que ser
criteria,
las
whether they're met,
ordenanzas
and
y las
I would say let this
especificaciones,
process go ahead
si
purely
esas
on
especificaciones
that track. Thank you.
se han cumplido y se tiene que proceder claramente solamente
Hi, my
por
name's
esa
Dorothy Nichols, and I want to publicly thank
De ahí en
Councilman
adelante,
Reyes
quiero
for continuing the
públicamente
deliberation
dar las gracias al
on the
concejal
Westdale Village
Reyes
Courtyard
por
Apartments
continuar
Historic Monument application. And I want to
restauración
thank Bill
de,
Rosendahl for his full support of
los
it.
apartamentos de la comunidad.
Because
Y
of the
dar las
recent
gracias
LA
a
Times
Bill
article
Rosendahl
on the
y
nomination,
porque
we wanted to make something perfectly
tenemos
clear.
que hacer algo
The Mar Vista
completamente
Historical
claro.
Society, who
El Mar
researched and
Vista-
sponsored
la
this
Sociedad
nomination,
Histórica de
is
Mar
not made
Vista
up of tenants or people attempting to, quote, abuse the system,
no está
unquote.
hecho, no está
We nominated these apartments because they are an important
construido de
part of Mar Vista
empleados.
history. And they tell a
Es una
significant
parte
part of
muy
the story of
importante
Los Angeles' ranch
están
house development
consternados con
after World War
los
II. This resource meets the
Este
criteria as set
recurso-
out in Administrative Code 22.130, and for the Mar Vista Historical Society, that is what this application is all about. The three developers who want to tear down 7 of these buildings to build luxury condos conveniently argue differently based on conjecture and not evidence. They call these common but can't come up with another single similar structure, let alone a row of 12 designed to fit into a master-planned community by Paul Truesdale. So why did Cultural Heritage turn down this nomination? It's simple. They aren't experts in Mar Vista history or post-World War II architectural trends. Not many people are. They weren't given the CC&Rs that prove Truesdale's connection, the rebuttal to the opposition by Charles Fisher, or testimony from unpaid experts like Alan Hess, who literally wrote the book on this style and time period until after Jay Oren had written the negative staff report. They never saw the Historic Resources Group letter of support from Christy McAvoy. They didn't have the real experts' guidance before their vote, and that's our fault. But they didn't have it, but you do. So use it. And again, I want to
Una
thank
vez más,
Councilman Reyes for
le doy
allowing the
las
Plum
gracias
Committee
al
time to
señor
read those supporting documents and to
Reyes por
thoroughly
haberle
consider that
permitido
evidence in their
al
decision.
Comité
We
de
think you're
Plum
awesome.
y la decisión que ha
Next speaker, please.
tomado a nuestro favor con respecto a eso.
Martin Rubin,
El próximo
West Los
parlante, Martin
Angeles.
Rubin de
I'd like to
West Los
second
Angeles,
everything Dorothy
para
Nichols just
apoyar a
said.
todo lo que ha
Thank
dicho
Councilman
Dorothy
Reyes,
Nichols y
members of
darle
Plum
las
for
gracias al
considering
concejal
this for
Reyes
another week.
y los miembros de Plum por
Westdale
considerar esto por una
Courtyard
semana más.
Apartments for historical
Westdale
status. Just wanted to
Courtyard
point out
Apartments
a couple
como sitio histórico. Un
things.
par de cosas.
Respectfully, the Cultural Heritage Commission
Respetuosamente,
did not have a good
la
deal
Comisión
of
Cultural
pertinent information
Histórica
at the
no
time it
tuvo
made
la
its
mayor
final
parte de la
3-2
información en el
vote against the
momento que
monument
hizo
status. The two
la
commissioners
decisión con
voting
respecto
for monument
a decidir
status
si iba a ser un monumento
wanted to
histórico o
open the item
no.
up for further
Y nosotros
discussion amongst the commissioners,
quisimos
but they
abrir
were
otra
denied
vez
that
la
request.
plática entre los comisionados,
Our
pero
experts, most
se nos negó
qualified on the
ese
time period
pedido.
and style in
Los
question,
expertos fueron
refuted the opposition's
notificados con
arguments,
respecto al
presented
estilo
substantial
y han
arguments for
rechazado
3 of the 4 criteria
toda
in the
la
Los
criteria que
Angeles
se
Administrative
presentó
Code, Section
con respecto a los
22130,
códigos
and only
administrativos
one
de la
of them
ciudad
is
de Los
necessary,
Ángeles.
as Dorothy pointed out.
Y solamente se
The
necesita
slight gain in
uno.
density from 48 to 72 units is not a justification for the loss of this
El
piece
hecho
of
que
Los
se-
Angeles history.
que se harán
Again, thank
más
you. I want to thank
unidades
our Councilman
no
Rosendahl for
justifica
supporting this
la
too.
pérdida
Thank
de
you.
este sitio histórico en la ciudad de Los Ángeles y le quiero dar a gracias
Mr. President, Charlie Fisher and I are switching places because he's on this
señor,
issue and I'm on a slightly different issue.
a los concejales
Good
por el
morning,
apoyo
Charlie
con
Fisher,
respecto a
Highland
esto.
Park,
Buenos días.
California. I have been
Charlie
working
Fisher,
on the
Highland Park,
Westdale
California.
Village
Estaba
Courtyard
trabajando
Apartments
en
project for several
Westdale
months
Village
now.
Courtyard Apartments
I'm
por
reminded
varios meses.
in the situation
Me
we're in right
recuerda en
now
esta
about a
situación
dozen years ago of the Sheraton
hace
Townhouse,
aproximadamente 12
which was a very
años,
worthy nomination that was
Sheraton
turned down by the
Townhouse
Cultural Heritage Commission.
que
Yet this
se
body saw that
desbarató
and realized the
y
importance of the Sheraton
Cámara
Townhouse and declared
se
that
enteró
building
de
a
eso
city
y
monument.
declaró
I'm asking that we look at the same thing here with the Westdale Village Courtyard Apartments. These buildings are a very unique part of Los Angeles. They are representative of a planning issue that goes back, that found its dawn at the end of World War II on how to incorporate multifamily and single-family housing into a single area and do it successfully. And I might add, I spoke with both Mary Jo Winder and the Galvin Group Associates who had written letters in opposition, basically stating that they did not qualify. Mary Jo Winder informed me that she was given the instructions to review these properties as individual properties, not as a grouping. She felt as a grouping there is a very important significance here, but that was not in her letter. And when I spoke with Galvin Associates, they never reviewed the CCNRs, and neither Mary Jo Winder nor the Galvin Associates visited the other sites that were cited by the opposition on this particular issue. None of these sites come close to what we have at Westdale. We lose Westdale, we've lost something that can never be replaced and will never be replaced in the city of Los Angeles. Thank you.
Gracias.
Council members, there were a lot of people this morning in this chamber needing higher wages because affordable housing is becoming extinct. All the tenants of Lincoln Place stand ready to negotiate a win-win solution.
Your name, ma'am?
I'm sorry, Sheila Bernard, President of Lincoln Place Tenants Association. All the tenants of Lincoln Place stand ready to negotiate a win-win solution to the Lincoln Place mass evictions. All the preservationists, including Amanda Seward, the nominator of Lincoln Place, stand ready to negotiate a win-win solution with AIMCO and the community. Only AIMCO, the owner of Lincoln Place, one of the largest landlords in the country, refuses to come back to the negotiating table to negotiate a win-win solution. The reason they don't want to come back to the table is they want something they can't have. They want to lock the public out of the process on what they plan to demolish and what they plan to build at Lincoln Place, and the community is furious about this. Locking the community out of the public process is the ransom that they want you to pay for our tenancies, and we hope you won't do this. We hope that you will urge them to come back. We hope you will bring the city attorney into this process of getting AIMCO back to the negotiating table. We continue to regard the city attorney as the entity most likely to be able to affect this and the least aware of their power in the situation. So we've decided to give the city attorney something else to think about. What I have here are damage claim forms. There have been 30 sheriff's notices posted on the doors of Lincoln Place tenants, including 12 yesterday. So you know what people are going to be doing on Thanksgiving weekend. They're going to be packing and looking for housing, which is hard to find. But I have 30 claim forms here that were filed yesterday with more to come. Damages against the city. Not because we don't love our city, but because we do love our city. Before more people are damaged by mass evictions, by developers holding tenants as hostage to get concessions that they shouldn't get, before evictions come to a neighborhood near you, get the city attorney involved in getting AIMCO back to the negotiating table. Thank you.
Thank you.
Esto se agrande más, traigan a AIMCO a las juntas de negociación. Quiero darle gracias
Lincoln Place is a big issue in the 11th district. There are tenants who are threatened by evictions. There's all kinds of issues that have been going on for years. I'm looking forward to us agendizing this next Wednesday in closed session so we can hear from the city attorney's office on the various issues of Lincoln Place to help us better understand what our options are as a city council.
Comprender qué opciones tenemos como el concilio
Good morning, Mr. President. Good morning, council members.
Buenos
My
días,
name is Mrs. Tessa
miembros del
Maria
concilio.
McClendon,
Mi nombre es
and
Tessa
I'm a
Maria
White House
McClendon.
correspondent.
Y
and a
soy
former presidential
correspondiente
advisor to William J.
de
Clinton.
la Casa
And my
Blanca
daughter, Giovanni Akila
la
Maxwell,
consejera
has been
de
kidnapped
el
by the IMPG 50th Street
William
gang
Clinton.
on Monday,
Mi hija
November
ha
15th
sido,
at 8:30 p.m. She is 5'3", 120 pounds, and was last seen at the strip mall, the Crenshaw Strip Mall Car Wash at 5200 11th Avenue
Por una
and Crenshaw
pandilla, mi hija ha
Boulevard.
sido
The people responsible for this kidnapping is James and Miko
tomada
Milligan
por
and Tiffany
una
Sanders.
pandilla.
The
James and Miko
IMPG
member
gang
Tiffany
is a
Sanders son
gang
las
of
personas
teenagers that are responsible for the 200% of child exploitation,
son
rape,
responsables
prostitution in Bernard Park's District 8.
en el
District 8.
distrito
IMPG gang is
8
located
de
at
Bernard Park.
3331
IMPGN
50th Street,
está
west of
localizada
Crenshaw
en
High,
3331
west of Crenshaw High School.
al oeste.
The Crenshaw Skip Mall Car Wash leader is Kenny. He is
El líder es
leader
Kenny.
of the prostitution ring.
Y él
And
es
they
el
are a
líder
nuisance to
de
the
este
community.
círculo de
They are
prostitución.
responsible for recruiting teenagers for prostitution, rape, contribution
Y ellos
to
reclutan
delinquency
a
of runaways as a result of providing a
adolescentes
safe haven for
para
the gangs
prostitución.
who are also known for being gay. These young men, I am a victim of the same treatment, and I propose that you put forth an ordinance that will birth an injunction that will close the Crenshaw Strip Mall Car Wash. Myron McDaniels was responsible for the birth of the in the turnaround of the Strip Mall Car Wash, and when he committed suicide as a result of being a victim, the car wash died. So, in memory of Myron McDaniels and the safe return of my daughter, Giovanni Akila Maxwell, I ask that you leave no child left behind. And I'd like to thank Chief William J. Bratton. Thank you.
William J. Bratton.
One last speaker before going out to Van Nuys, Ms.
El
Donna
último
Doherty.
parlante, la señora Donna Doherty.
Thank you very much. My name is Donna Doherty.
Mi nombre es
Good morning.
Donna Doherty. Buenos días.
Council members and President
Concejales y
Padilla.
Presidente Pradilla.
I'm here to talk about
Estoy
Griffith
aquí
Observatory
para
and the lack
hablar
of
del
access
Griffith
at the front
Observatory,
entrance. We have
porque
$90
no hay
million
acceso
for
a la
all of you who
entrada
don't
adelante.
understand. We have
Tenemos
$90 million
$90
of our public
de
money
nuestro
in
dinero
that
público.
renovation, and they are
Y
refusing
en
to
esa
make the front entrance
renovación.
accessible for everybody. That includes
Y
not only
no
disabled,
quieren usar ese
but
dinero
people with children in strollers. There are
hacer
12 steps there.
la entrada accesible a
We've
todos,
asked
no
before to have this
solamente
put on the agenda
incapacitados,
for the
pero
full city
mujeres con
council.
niños pequeños.
We did have it on
Hemos
the
pedido que se
agenda in
ponga en
the
la
Arts and
agenda.
Parks Department, and this is your
Lo
responsibility.
tuvimos en la agenda
If you
del
read the Arts and Parks Department,
Departamento de
I mean, you
Artes y
cover a
Parques,
multitude of things
y
there,
esto
taking
es
care of children, of
algo
seniors,
tocante a
of everybody,
ustedes.
and this is not doing it.
Ustedes
We don't
supuestamente
need a
deben de
sign on the
ocuparse
front
de
lawn of this
incapacitados,
building
de personas
to
mayores.
tell everybody to go
No
around the
necesitamos
end
un
of a wing in one
en la
door
puerta
and the
para que
whole
tengan
length
que
of the wing
salir
on the inside back in
por
that
una
same direction
puerta de
towards the front
atrás
four
para
doors.
poder
And
entrar
then you have to get to those front four doors before you can turn to go into the programming site. This is wrong. It is not up
Eso
to
no
snuff
es
for our
correcto.
city.
No es
And
suficiente
I don't
para
know
nuestra
how much
ciudad.
more I can do to
Y no
move
sé
this.
qué más puedo hacer yo
I know
para
that
tratar de
Councilman
mover esto
Labange
hacia
has
adelante. Sé que el concejal
canceled a
Labange
trip out to
ha
UCLA to see what
cancelado un viaje a
UCLA did about it. They
para
did
ver
it
qué
10
hizo.
years ago and did it beautifully.
ellos lo
And
hicieron
nothing was
hace 10
destroyed of
años,
the building, but it
y
was
nada
made
se destruyó
accessible
del
for
edificio,
everybody. That's
pero
the
sí se
old
hizo la
Powell
entrada de
Library
adelante
in the
accesible
old
para
quadrangle up there.
todos.
We need to do
Se
the same
fue
thing. We have absolutely
la
no
biblioteca
design whatsoever for the
en
whole
el
15
cuadrángulo de
years
UCLA.
that could be looked at
No
as an
hay
alternative.
diseño.
Now,
Thank
to
Hay
agree to
muchos
go
diseños
to
que se
the,
pueden
on
mirar,
the 5th of December,
usar
at
como
3 o'clock,
alternativo.
a meeting at the observatory. I'm
iba
not
a
sure
ir-
why. I
I
will go.
Thank you very much. I want you to come up and see the
Quiero que usted
multiple
vaya.
entrances to the observatory. We'll keep you posted, council members,
Las
as we do this.
entradas
Thank you so much. I'm
múltiples.
sorry we
Well,
got
with
that
Gertrude
notice.
Stein, a door
observatorio.
is a door is a door, but 4 doors are at the front of the building are totally different than a door at the back side
Let's
of a
visit
building.
over here so we can coordinate our calendars. Thank you, Ms. Doherty.
This is an equal rights access issue, everybody. Super is the acronym.
Mr.
Shared
Labange is
use
ready to meet
pathways
with you
for
and converse with
equal
you right now.
rights.
Tenemos que tener
Let's now, with the
derechos
assistance of
iguales,
our
derechos
great
iguales
folks from the
para los
Information
mayores,
Technology Agency,
señoras y
go
señores.
out to Van Nuys and
Entonces vamos a ir a Van Nuys,
general public comment from
a los
I believe
comentarios
it's Chris
públicos que
Jurgensen,
del señor Chris
Don
Jurgensen, Don Schultz,
Dr. Daniel
Dr.
Weisman,
Daniel Weisman,
Judy Price,
Judy Price,
and Linda Worley.
y Linda Worley.
There you are. Good morning.
Ahí están. Buenos
Hi,
días.
good morning,
Buenos
and
días.
thank you. My name is Chris
Mi nombre es
Jurgensen,
Chris
and I
Jurgensen,
am
y
the
estoy
chair
aquí
of the subcommittee, the communications
como el
subcommittee of the
presidente
Outreach
del
Committee of the Winnetka
Comité
Neighborhood Council. And I am here to thank and
el jefe del comité
congratulate
de subcomun-
the council,
de
as well as Greg
subcomunicaciones de
Smith, for
Winnetka,
spearheading this and bringing this technology to the
Concilio de
valley.
Vecindad, y quiero dar las
We at
gracias
the
por
Winnetka
traer
Neighborhood
esta
Council
tecnología
are involved in this process
al
as
valle.
well, of
Estamos aquí
trying
involucrados en
to
este proceso
webcast our
también,
meetings
de tratar de
to our stakeholders in Winnetka. And along those lines, the Winnetka Neighborhood Council
estas
and the stakeholders of Winnetka
reuniones
would also like to
y
request your consideration
Concilio
for a
de la
pilot
Vecindad
program
de
utilizing this technology
la vecindad para
within
usar
the Winnetka
un
Neighborhood
programa nuevo
Council.
para
So,
usar esta
once again, I just want to
tecnología.
thank you. We
Y
would
quiero
appreciate
dar
your
las
support
gracias
along
una
those
vez más.
lines. And
Apreciaríamos su apoyo
thanks again.
con respecto a eso. Muchas
Thank
gracias.
you. Our next speaker, please.
Nuestro próximo parlante, por favor.
Good morning, council members. My name is Don Schultz, longtime Van Nuys community activist.
Activista de la comunidad.
Council members, as you know, the
Como
mayor
ustedes
has
saben,
made various
el alcalde
recommendations
ha hecho
for
varias
a number of different
recomendaciones con
commission
respecto a
positions.
las posiciones.
We are very proud of a number of positions that
estamos
the
muy
mayor has
orgullosos del número
recommended,
de posiciones
particularly on the
que ha
MTA
recomendado el
with David
alcalde con
Fleming,
respecto
Richard
al
Katz,
MTA,
among
David
others.
Fleming and Katz,
However, there is one appointment I'm very
Pero
concerned about, and I
hay
hope that you will scrutinize this very
asignación
carefully when it
verdaderamente
comes before
me
you.
preocupa mucho y espero que lo
Our good mayor
examinen
has recommended
cuidadosamente.
Ramona
Nuestro
Ripson from the
alcalde
ACLU
ha
on the
recomendado a Ramon
LASA Homeless
Ripson
Commission.
del
This commission
ACLU
is a very important commission for the city of Los
comisión del
Angeles, and it leads to many various issues
Es
that
una comisión
you
muy
as a council get
importante
involved in and we as
en la
residents
cual
get
estarán
involved in.
involucrados ustedes
But
como el
putting Ramona
concilio y
Ripson
nosotros
on the
como
LASA
residentes.
commission is tantamount
Poner
to
Mona
putting
Ripson
O.J. Simpson on the
en
Domestic
esta
Abuse Commission.
comisión es poner
Thank you.
a O.J. Simpson en la
Next speaker, please.
comisión por causa de abuso doméstico.
Good morning,
Gracias. El
council
próximo,
members. Welcome to Van Nuys again. I
concejales,
welcomed
buenos
you on
días.
Wednesday when you
Bienvenidos a
held your
Van
council
Nuys.
meetings out here,
Les
and
di la
many of us
bienvenida el
from the Van
miércoles
Nuys
cuando
Neighborhood
tuvieron
Council did. I want to
la
also
reunión del concilio
say
aquí
hello to all
y
the
quiero
council
también
members,
saludar
neighborhood
a
council members who are in the
miembros del
Ferraro
concilio
building
que están en
and
el
here
edificio de
with me. There
Ferraro
are
y
many
aquí
of us
conmigo.
here that
Hay
are very
muchos de
pleased
nosotros
with
aquí
this
y
video
nos agrada
linkage that
mucho
has
este
been
tipo de
set
vínculo
up.
por
With a budget of $6 million, less than
con un
1/10 of
presupuesto
which
de
can go for
6 millones
operational
de
costs. It's a real coup to be able
es
to talk to you
verdaderamente un gran
from
éxito
this
poder hablar con
location
ustedes,
instead of from
aunque
your own location.
de esta
I want to
localidad,
send
aunque
personal thanks from
solamente
Candida Mraz to Mr.
una
Smith
décima
for
de
his
1%
excellent
es que
effort to get this
de
thing
ese
done.
dinero se puede
And we
usar
do
en
want to
proyectos
see that a linkage like this is arranged for Mar Vista so that
quisiéramos
Ken
que
Marsh can
este
have
tipo
one
de vínculo
in
se
East LA
arregle,
so that Bob Jimenez and down in the
Mar
south
Vista,
part of town and in all parts of town.
Bob
These
Jimenez, en
linkages are the
toda parte de la
21st
ciudad,
century. Thank you for
verdaderamente
setting them
son
up. Thank you to the
le
ITA.
pertenece al
Look forward to hearing from a lot of
siglo
us out here in the valley and all over
21
town in
y
ways that
gracias por
will,
todos
we hope,
nosotros aquí del Valle
advise you
y
better.
toda parte
Thank
de
you
la
again.
ciudad y que de esta manera
Thank you.
podremos a
Next
ustedes
speaker, please.
Hi, I'm Judy Price. I live in
aconsejar
Valley
los mejores.
Glen, which is in Council
Judy
District
Price,
2.
vivo en Valley Glen,
I am Secretary of the
en
Valley
el
Glen
cons-
Neighborhood
en el
Association and
distrito
on the
número
Board
2.
Elect of the Greater Valley Glen Council. I want to thank Wendy Gruhl,
Estoy-
Councilmember Wendy Gruhl, for
quiero
all
dar
that
las
she
gracias
does
a
for
Wendy
us and
Gruhl
also
por
for
todo lo
helping
que
to
nos da
bring
a
the video
nosotros
conferencing to
y
the
también
Valley.
por
It's
traer
nice to
esta
have City
conferencia,
Council in the Valley.
de
Thank you
video
very much.
en el Valle. Quiero dar las gracias una
Okay,
vez
and I
más.
believe our final speaker
Creo
is
que el
Linda
último
Worley.
es Linda Ruley.
Thank you for this great
Gracias por esta
opportunity.
gran
I
oportunidad.
am a commercial property
Soy
owner in Valley Glen, and I'd like to see
dueña de
more
propiedad
presence given to
comercial y
Valley
quisiera
Glen, not
darle
just
más
a stop on the
presencia a
bus
Valley
line.
Glen, no
And I'd like
solamente
to
una parada
recommend that the council
en la
give it
línea
more
de
visibility.
autobuses, pero quisiera
Thank
que
you very
el
much.
concilio nos diera mucho más
Thank you very
visibilidad.
much.
Gracias.
This, I believe, concludes general public
Gracias.
comment for
Esto cierra
today's
los
meeting.
comentarios públicos
Council members, we have
de la
12
reunión del
members
día de hoy.
currently
Tenemos
present.
12
There's no
miembros
objection. I'd like to take a vote
presentes.
on all the ordinances
Así
from
que
today's
no,
agenda.
si no hay
There's none that have been called special.
oposición, quisiera
Clerk, please
tomar
open the
voto
roll.
a las
And
ordenanzas que
Mr.
están
President, just to let
presentes,
council know,
que
those
sean
are items
llamados
2,
especiales.
7,
Y esos son el
23,
2, 7, 23, 24,
26,
25, 26,
27,
27 y 28.
Please close the
Por
roll
favor,
and tabulate the
cierre
vote.
el voto y
12
tabule.
ayes.
12
Those
sís.
are approved.
Son aprobados.
We now come to
Entonces ahora llegamos
some folks who have been very patiently waiting
las
some
personas que
special
han sido
presentations
tan
this morning.
pacientes
Our first
para
to
la
be conducted by
presentación
Councilmember
de
Dennis
esta
Zine.
mañana que va a encabezarla Dennis Zine.
Thank you, Mr. President. Retired Sergeant Al Atkins from the LAPD is here, and he's in charge of the Celebrity Golf Tournament, which is the major
Este señor
fundraiser
está
for
aquí
the
de
members of the
Los
LAPD, their
Ángeles,
families,
el Departamento de Policía de
survivors.
Los Ángeles.
It's an annual event.
Y
It's
es
gone on for over 20 years.
una competencia
And
de
what we like to do is get more and
golf
more involvement
que beneficia
from the
a
council,
las
from the people of Los
familias,
Angeles to help
y lo que
the
queremos es
survivors
involucrar más al
and the tragedies that
concilio,
occur to those brave men and women of the Los Angeles Police Department, both
que
sworn and
urgir
civilian.
al concilio
And
que
I've been
apoye
a
más a
supporter
las
of that,
familias
not that I'm a
sobrevivientes
golfer because I
de
cannot
todos los
golf. I've tried.
caídos en servicio
Even
en
though
la
it's a
ciudad de
golf
Los
tournament, there are
Ángeles.
other ways that we can support with the
Aunque yo
ads,
no
the
puedo,
ad journal, sponsorship, and
si hay
other
alguna
areas.
otra
And
manera en que nosotros podemos
Sergeant Atkins has a
apoyar,
presentation
y el
and
señor
a few words regarding
el
that.
sargento Atkins tiene
Retired
una
Sergeant Al
presentación.
Atkins. I mean, you look like you're young
Jubilado.
enough to still be
Bueno, usted
working.
dice que
You want to become a
verdaderamente
reserve
tan
officer?
joven que
Because if you do, there's a reward, and we can put that reward towards the Memorial
porque si lo quiere
Foundation.
hacer hay una
Al Atkins.
recompensa y esa
Thank you,
recompensa la
Dennis.
podemos dar en la
My name is Al Atkins. I'm the
la
Executive
Fundación.
Director of the Police Memorial Foundation.
Soy
And just
director
very briefly,
ejecutivo de la
to let you know what we do, the
Fundación
Police Memorial
en
Foundation
memoria
makes
de
financial
policías
grants
y
to officers and their immediate
oficiales
family
caídos
members
para
who
los
experience
oficiales y
unforeseen catastrophic circumstances.
que
At the very
tienen la
high end is an
experiencia de
officer killed in
sufrir
the line of duty to pay for their funerals,
experiencias
send their children
catastróficas
to college,
para mandar
to assisting
por
with
ejemplo
life's
para ayudar
necessities
a
for
no
officers who are
solamente los
off
costos
long-term ill or
funerales a
injured
mandar
on
a hijos
duty when their
a
city
las
pay benefits
universidades
have been exhausted. So
y los
we
fondos
collect
han
money, as
sido
Dennis says, throughout the year through charitable payroll contributions from employees, from the corporate community of
han
Los
acabado.
Angeles has been
Y
very generous, and of course the
nosotros
residents of
claro,
Los Angeles.
recaudamos fondos
But annually,
de
our one and
muchas
only
personas de la ciudad de
fundraiser,
Los
the
Ángeles,
Police
pero
Celebrity Golf Tournament, is when the
esta
corporate
recaudación de
community and the
fondos
citizens come
anuales,
together
la
and
principal
really show their
es
support of
cuando
the
los
police
ciudadanos, el
department. And I know
concilio
many of the council
y todos los
members here are
miembros de la
very
policía se
active,
reúnen
and I see you out at the golf
ayudar
tournament. But
y
I
apoyar
wanted to
a esta
recognize
fundación.
particularly Councilman Dennis
Quería
Zine
reconocer
for
en
his many
particular
years of
al
service and
concejal Dennis
support
Zine
to the
por
police
los
department.
tantos
Hi,
años
Tom.
de
Thank you.
servicio y apoyo.
And Dennis,
Gracias. Y
on behalf of the
señor
Board of Directors
Dennis,
of the Police
a
Memorial
nombre
Foundation,
de
we'd
la
like
Junta
to present this
Directiva
to
del
you,
Police Memorial
and it says
Foundation.
supporting those who
Quisiera
protect the
presentarle
community
esto
in appreciation of your
por
support
darle apoyo
of the
a todas las
34th
personas
Annual
que
Los Angeles
protegen
Police
a
Celebrity
la
Golf
comunidad.
Tournament. You make a difference for the
Celebrity.
men and women of the LAPD.
Usted
Signed
hace la
the Los
diferencia
Angeles
para
Police
los hombres y
Memorial
mujeres que
Foundation.
sirven en el Departamento de
Thank you,
Policía
Al. It's
de Los
a
Ángeles. Gracias
beautiful
a
plaque
una placa muy bella.
with,
Muchas gracias. Con una
with the proud badge of the Los Angeles Police Department. I
una
appreciate this. I know we're going to be hearing from some of the
orgullosa
officers
del Departamento de la
from
Policía.
South Bureau.
Sé que van a hablar
South
algunos de los
Bureau, right?
oficiales del South Bureau.
South Bureau, who are out there
que están
battling the bad
aquí,
guys all the time. So it's for those folks that are here, their families, that we
peleando
do
a
this for
los
every year. And I
malos
encourage all of
todo
you to
el
get
tiempo
involved
para
in
esos
this
oficiales.
fundraising to help the Celebrity Golf Tournament, payroll deduction, participate in the golf tournament, and
Los
this year it's going to
inspiro
be
a
May,
todos para que se
May 20th.
apoyen.
So
Esto
we
va a ser
hope to
el
get
20 de
this
mayo,
spread
así
throughout
que,
the
por
City
favor,
Hall for all
esperamos
the
que
people
esto
here. So thank
se
you, Al. I
corra por
appreciate it for the Memorial
todo
Foundation.
el
Thank you very much.
ayuntamiento de la ciudad
Thank you, Mr.
para que
President.
puedan estar aquí. Gracias,
Thank you,
señor
Mr.
presidente.
Zine. For our
Gracias,
next
señor Zine.
presentation, let me recognize Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, I am not really making a presentation, but the
Primero
City of
que
Los
nada,
Angeles is
obviamente, yo no voy a
receiving
hacer
a
una presentación,
presentation,
pero la
and we're
ciudad
very honored to
de
have
Los
with us
Ángeles va a recibir una
representatives
presentación
from the United
y
States
es un gran honor
Foundation
para
for the
nosotros
Preservation of our streets.
de una fundación de preservación de las
Pavement
calles de
preservation.
la ciudad de Los
There's two P's in there. Pavement
Sabía-
preservation.
del
The City of Los
pavimento
Angeles
de
won
las
a very
calles de
prestigious
los
award
Estados Unidos.
from the
La
National
ciudad de Los
Foundation for
Ángeles
Pavement Preservation just a few weeks ago,
ganado
and I
un
was honored to
premio
represent
muy
the city at
prestigioso de
that
la
presentation in Austin, Texas. And
y
I'm very pleased to
representé
have
yo a
with
la
us
ciudad de
is
Los
Mike Burns.
Ángeles
You can
en
make the
Austin, Texas, así que
presentation
voy a hacer la
Mike
presentación.
Good to see you
Mike
again,
Clip
Michael. On
es el
behalf
que va
of
a hacer la presentación. A
the
nombre
Foundation for the
de
Preservation
la
of Pavement,
Fundación de
Michael
Preservación
McCleary.
de
Michael?
Pavimento, el señor Michael McCleary.
Councilman.
Gracias,
Thank you,
concejal.
Mr. President,
Gracias, señor
and ladies and
presidente
gentlemen of the
y
council.
señoras y señores del
I'm proud
concilio.
to be here, and I thank you for
Es
the
un gran
opportunity to,
orgullo para mí
to
estar
speak in
aquí
front of you. The Foundation
poder hablar
for
frente a
Pavement
ustedes.
Preservation is a
La
national
Fundación de
organization that
Preservación de
represents the
Pavimento es una
FHWA and
organización
many road
nacional que
building
representa
organizations as well as people
los
within the industry. And
edificios
over the last year and
de
a
la
half,
ciudad
by
y
meeting Bill Robertson
y
and
en
Nazario
este último
Salceda
año y medio,
and Councilman Smith, we have realized as that
reuniéndonos con
organization that the
varios
city of
estados,
LA
que nos hemos dado
has
cuenta que
done
la
an
ciudad de Los
excellent
Ángeles
job
ha
in
hecho un trabajo
preserving their
excelente a
pavements and
preservar el
dedicating
pavimento
the proper
y
amount of funds, or
dedicar
not maybe the proper amount of funds, but funds to preserve the
fondos
pavements
para
here. And
preservar
it's all about working
el
on the right
pavimento
road
aquí
at the right time with the
y
right
trabajar
application.
con
And we, as the Foundation for Pavement
la
Preservation, would
carretera
like to present
exacta
this
y
award
nosotros
to the city of
podemos
LA for their
presentar
excellence
esta
in performing those things. So thank you very much.
y queremos darle a la ciudad de Los Ángeles este
As they,
premio
take the
por
pictures, I
preserven.
just wanted to
A
let you know,
medida que
members,
toman
this
las
weekend,
fotos, quiero dejarles
our
saber,
great
miembros,
paving
este fin
crews
de
over the
semana,
weekend
nuestros equipos
paved
de
Lankershim
pavimento
right in front of
han
Universal, closed the on-ramp.
reparado el
They were
pavimento
done
de
so early on
Lankershim y
Sunday morning,
terminaron
the ice cream
tan
I was going to
temprano
get
el domingo
wasn't
por la
delivered, so I
mañana
got to find out
que
who that crew was. They did a great job. That's the
que se
kind of people that are
pudo
out there. What was the crew number, Bill
entregar
Robertson?
el
252. Salute crew
entonces,
252.
un saludo
You got your
al,
local, more than that
al
there. They
equipo
did a great job. But this is a
hicieron
great,
un
outstanding
trabajo
thing. When we do it right, we do it right.
grandioso. Muchas
And we
gracias
do it
cuando lo
right when we
hacemos
pave
bien.
those streets with those big city crews. Boom, boom. Thank you for
Y
that
lo
award.
hacemos bien cuando reparamos
I
el
want to thank Mike again for
con esos
coming
equipos
out
de la
here
ciudad una vez más.
to present
Quiero
this
dar
again
gracias
to the
más
city of
para
Los
dar
Angeles.
gracias a la ciudad de
But
Los
I feel
Ángeles.
inappropriate in accepting
Pero
this as the chairman of the
verdaderamente
Public Works
no
Committee.
siento que
The
sea
work is
papel
done,
que
of
sea
course,
yo el
by
que acepte
Bill
esto,
Robertson
porque
and
el trabajo
Nazario from the
realmente se hace
department, who do an
por Bill
incredible job
Roberts y
concerning the
Nazario
council,
del
has never
departamento,
fully given them all the
que
resources they
hacen
really need to do their
gran
job,
trabajo,
yet they go
a
out
pesar
there
de
and do an
que
incredible
la
amount of
ciudad
work,
no les da a ellos
fixing the
los
city streets,
recursos
keeping us
necesarios
our head
para
above
hacer
water,
el
and
trabajo propio de
they've
ellos,
just been
pero
innovative,
verdaderamente
creative,
han sido
and this
innovadores,
award is really deserved, and
creativos,
Bill
y
and Nazario, both of you,
esta
please accept our congratulations to the Board of
y
Public Works and
ustedes, Bill
particularly
y
Board of
Nazario, ustedes
Bureau of
dos
Street
son los que
Services
se
for an outstanding and continuing
merecen
job.
este premio
We'd like to say a few words
por
about the
una
program.
por este gran trabajo
Thank you.
que
Good
continúan
morning, council
haciendo.
members.
Buenos días, concejales.
This is indeed an honor.
Es
This is a
verdaderamente un
national
honor.
award.
Es
And as many of
un
us
premio
know,
nacional
our
y como
streets aren't
ustedes
in the
saben,
best condition.
nuestras calles no
But I
están en
think
la
the
mejor
underlying
condición,
point
pero
of this award
el
is,
punto que
what are we doing with the
subraya
limited
este
funding
premio es que
we
qué
do
es lo que
get?
hacemos con
What are
los
we doing to
fondos,
stretch
aunque
those
limitados
dollars
que
to try to
recibimos, qué
preserve our
hacemos para
street
estirar
system
esos dólares
until
y
some
preservar
point in the future
nuestras
funding
calles
is
hasta
available?
que llegue un
Well, I think
momento
we've
en el
proven that with
futuro
our cold in place
que los
recycling,
fondos
our
estén
rubberized slurry seal,
disponibles.
the
Pero
fact
estas
that we're
cosas se las
operating
hemos
2
probado por
municipal
todas las
plants,
otras cosas que
recycling
hacemos,
at
el
25%.
reciclaje,
So
que
we're doing a
operamos
lot of the things
plantas
that
de
are right, but
reciclaje
the
al
bottom line is that
25%, hacemos muchas cosas
funding for the infrastructure needs to be allocated. But until that point in time, this Bureau will continue to use technology and other processes to stretch every dollar we have. And I want to thank the Foundation for their support, and more importantly, the Council for their support. Over the years, with the many new ideas we've had, your support has gone a long way in bringing those forward and allowing us to put them in place. So thank you very much. And thank you, Greg, for your support on the Public Works Committee. You've been great, and we appreciate the fact that you've been so involved in infrastructure issues and assisting us in trying to get things done. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Obras Públicas y que nos ha ayudado tanto al poder desempeñar estas labores. Nuestra propia presentación, la concejal Han.
Thank you, members. Mr. President, colleagues.
Miembros,
Taliban says when we do it right, we do it right. And I have two presentations where I'm going to honor some police officers and neighborhood prosecutors who did it right. And I know sometimes we get tired of presentations. And I know we have a long agenda. I know we're all thinking about everything we have to do this week, especially those of us who are cooking on Thursday. But I hope you listen to this, because I have two great stories about something I think we can all be thankful for in the city of Los Angeles, and two neighborhoods in Watts that were really being held hostage by a number of things. And because of the dedicated work of these city employees, we've given these neighborhoods back to the people who live there, and they're great stories.
Hemos podido devolverles las vecindades a la comunidad.
My first story, and leads me to honor the people that I'm honoring, is that it was actually in 2001, the intersection of 110th and Lou Dillon. It was completely overrun by gang members, drug dealers, young people ran unattended, children ran rampant along the streets all day, all hours of the day and night. In this area, about 50% of the houses were vacant. They were being vandalized on a regular basis. We had trash, debris, graffiti, abandoned cars, littered all the streets and the vacant lots. And this was very dangerous, not only for the people who lived here, this was a dangerous part of the city for our police officers. And our police officers routinely had rocks and bottles thrown at them when they patrolled this area. At one point, we had more officer needs help calls coming from this location than from any other place in the South Bureau. That year, our Southeast Senior Lead Officer, Rich Subiate, Deputy City Attorney Kevin Gilligan, Building and Safety Inspector Marshall Rump were all working in LAPD's Southeast area at the time. And they came up with a plan to turn this neighborhood around and to take it back. Inspector Rump did a fantastic job cajoling property owners into fixing their properties when possible and demolishing them when there was no other option. You know, this city employee was held up at gunpoint near this area in 2001. And what I love about this city employee is that might have caused other city employees to at least take the stress leave, or maybe ask to be transferred somewhere else. And he didn't. He kept working. He kept taking this project as his own because he realized how important it was. Our Deputy City Attorney Kevin Gilligan held hearings with property owners, coordinated city services, strategized with LAPD and our Department of Building and Safety, and helped direct the overall effort. Our LAPD narcotics officers worked undercover in this area to target those drug dealers. In August of 2001, LAPD and members of the City Attorney's Office initiated an early morning search warrant service, followed by parole and probation searches. Soon after, that area was infiltrated with city services, including building and safety inspectors, lot cleaning, graffiti removal, tree trimming, street sign cleaning. And a community meeting was held following that sweep. And you'll love this. This community meeting had to be held in the middle of a
Esta junta de la
nearby
comunidad tuvo
street
que tomar a cabo
because the people
en
were
la
too
calle
afraid
porque la gente
to
tenía
hold this meeting
demasiado miedo
in their own
de
homes.
hacer
And Block
esta
Captain
junta
Teresa Martinez worked with
y
Senior
la
Lead Officer
capitán de la
Rich
cuadra,
to
Teresa
involve
Martínez,
area residents and continue to keep this
trabajó
area
con los
clean.
ciudadanos.
Since that
con un
kickoff of
ciudadano
that
Rich,
project,
desde que se
21 properties in a
comenzó
5-block
ese
area
proyecto,
have been
21 de las
rehabilitated.
propiedades se han
2 have been
rehabilitado,
demolished.
2 se han
3 new homes have been built,
derrumbado,
and 2
se
more
han
are proposed. A
construido
neighborhood group has
3
been
casas
established.
nuevas. Se ha
And perhaps
establecido un
most
grupo de la
importantly, a
vecindad y más
statistic that we
importante
can
que
all
todos,
be proud of and brag
una
about,
estadística que
violent crime
verdaderamente
dropped
por la cual debemos estar orgullosos.
37.5%
Crimen de
from
violencia
2001
bajaron por el
till today,
27%,
2005.
comenzando desde el 2001 hasta el 2005.
This is something we can be
Esto es
really
algo
proud of, and
de
I'll be
lo
the
que
first to
verdaderamente
admit to our city
tenemos que
attorney,
tener
Rocky
orgullo.
Delgadillo, if he's listening.
Seré yo
I'll be the first to admit, I
la
wasn't
que admito
convinced
del-
about this neighborhood
del
prosecutor
abogado de la ciudad, pero y yo
project that we
verdaderamente Rocky
approved on the
Delgadillo,
city
y
council, and we gave
verdaderamente yo no
extra
estaba
money
muy
to the city
convencida,
attorney
hemos
during the
dado
budget process. I
dinero
wasn't convinced that we really needed
adicional
a whole separate
al abogado de la ciudad
group
y
called
no
neighborhood
estaba seguro que
prosecutors. And I
necesitábamos
said, I'll approve
un
this and I'll
grupo,
give you money, but I
dije, lo
want to see
aprobaré, le voy a dar
results.
dinero, pero
And
quiero
I've
ver
seen more
resultados.
results
Y he visto
from our neighborhood
más
prosecutors all over the
resultados
city. And I can stand here and say that a lot of these
de
things that are
los
being
grupos de la
accomplished and
vecindad
turned around in my council district are a result of the
cosas que se están
amazing
resolviendo
effort,
en mi
passion, and dedication
distrito
from our neighborhood
son el
prosecutors
resultado
in the
de-
city of Los Angeles. And this could not have been done without them, without
esto no se pudiera
LAPD,
haber hecho
without
sin
building and safety
ellos, sin el
inspectors, and all
Departamento
the
de la
others that worked
Policía,
on
sin
this.
los
I am
inspectores
a
de
grateful person, and this
edificios y
Thanksgiving,
seguridad, y así que yo
when
soy
I
una
think
persona
about what
muy
I'm grateful
agradecida.
for, it's really going to
Y
be about
esta-
all of you in this city
este
that
mes
really
de
care
acción de
so much to turn
gracias,
our neighborhoods
voy a
around.
pensar
Kevin
en todos
Gilligan, come up
ustedes
here and say
verdaderamente que han
something.
tomado tanto esfuerzo para verdaderamente cambiar las vecindades.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Thank you, City Council.
Gracias, concejal.
There are many
Gracias,
great stories here. I'll be brief. I know it's been a long day.
Sé que es
I feel sorry for you. No, but Teresa Martinez, I want to thank you publicly
Teresa
for
Martínez,
stepping
quiero
up
dar las
as the
gracias,
block captain and doing the work that you did.
por haber
And we
venido
can't do it
aquí,
without the community. The
capitán
partnership is
de la
crucial.
ciudad, y no
I
lo
also want
podemos
to
hacer
thank
sin la
Marshall Rump for his
comunidad.
incredible work. As the Councilwoman said, he could
Como
have
ha
taken
dicho
the easy
la
way out and
concejal,
left, but he didn't do
él
that.
se podía
And
haber
Building and
ido.
Safety did a tremendous job, and they often
Departamento
do
de Seguridad
that. And the LAPD officers did a fantastic
edificios,
job.
los
There are many,
oficiales
many
de la
people here.
policía han
The
hecho
project
un
started in
gran trabajo.
2001 with CNAP, and I
El
want to thank Mary Claire and Tina Hess for their work,
comenzó en el 2001,
specifically
comenzando
directing
con
the
CINAP.
program. And then when
Quiero
Rocky
dar
came in and
gracias a
started the
Tina
neighborhood
y
prosecutor
Rocky,
program in
que
2002, he
comenzó
really gave us the tools to keep
el
working on
programa
and
de
do
la
it. So
vecindad
thank you
y
very
él nos
much to
dio
the city
todas las
attorney.
herramientas para poder
That's all. Thank you.
seguir llevando a cabo
Thank
este
you, Kevin.
programa.
Let
Gracias,
me
Kevin.
really
Una vez
make
más.
this official. Kevin, on behalf of a very grateful city,
Kevin,
I want to congratulate you
nombre
and
de
give you
una
this
ciudad
certificate
muy
of appreciation.
Agradecida, quiero
Teresa,
darle a usted
I
este
really want to
certificado de
thank you as
apreciación.
well.
Teresa,
Gold
quiero
seal.
darle a usted
Thanks for your effort.
gracias
You've really made
también,
a difference.
Teresa. Verdaderamente ha hecho usted la diferencia.
Senior Lead Officer, Rich Subiate. Rich.
Senior Lead Officer,
Thank you. You
Rick
do so
Subiate.
much for us. We
Usted hace
love you.
tanto para nosotros, lo queremos
So
mucho.
much.
Gracias.
Scott Stevens. Officer
Scott
Scott Stevens. Thank you.
el oficial
Really
Scott
appreciate
Stevens.
your work.
Gracias, apreciamos su trabajo.
Chris Jordan, Officer Chris Jordan.
Chris Jordan.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Really appreciate it.
Apreciamos su trabajo.
Detective
Detective Youngman.
Thank you ever so much. We appreciate your work.
Muchísimas gracias, se lo
Officer Alicia Jordan.
apreciamos. Oficial Alicia
Thank
Jordan.
you.
Gracias.
Officer Alma Andre.
Oficial Alma
Did I say that? Andrade.
Andrade.
Thank you so much.
Gracias.
Senior Inspector Mark Morrow.
Inspector Mayor Mark Morrow.
Thank you so much.
Muchas gracias.
Inspector Marshall Hunt.
Inspector Marshall Hunt.
Marshall,
Marshall.
alive to tell the story.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you so much. Joel Taylor.
Joel Taylor.
Community Resource Specialist, Office of the City
Especialista de
Attorney.
recursos de la ciudad, de la
Thank
oficina
you.
del abogado de la ciudad.
Louis
Gracias.
Lopez. Community
Luis
Resource
Lopez.
Specialist, Office of City Attorney. Thank you. Luis.
Oficial de la
Tina Hess, one of the
de la oficina
supervising
del
city attorneys.
abogado de la
Tina,
ciudad,
thank
Tina
you
Hurst,
so much. Really.
supervisora de la oficina del abogado de la ciudad.
Okay.
Muchas gracias.
And before you conclude this
One more.
presentation,
Okay.
we have
Antes de
Mr.
concluir
Zine
esta-
and Mr. Labange.
Tenemos al
Okay,
señor
I
Sain
have
y el
one
señor
more
Labange, que
good
quiere decir una
story,
más.
so, but go ahead.
Mr. Zine?
Señor Sain.
All right, here's
Oh,
the
no,
story.
it's
Go
just,
ahead.
it's just another,
Otra.
Go ahead. Go ahead. You got the floor.
no, go ahead.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Janice Hunt.
Gracias,
I just
concejal
want to
Janice Hunt.
acknowledge the
Quiero
fine work
reconocer
that
aquí el trabajo
all those fine officers are doing down there,
tan
and I have
grande que
a
han
son who's
hecho
working
estos
Southfield
oficiales.
on
Tengo
motors, and I know the
hijo que
relationship
trabaja
that
en
they all have
Southfield
down in that
en
part of the city. The crime, the
motocicleta, y
violence, what's
sabemos
been turned
todo el
around.
crimen, la
There's so many
violencia
areas of the
que
city of
se ha
Los Angeles that need
cambiado.
this
Hay
kind of
tantas áreas de
partnership.
la ciudad de Los Ángeles
And
que
I asked the
necesitan
officers that are here, how
este
many of you ever been to
tipo de
city council
sociedad
before?
con la
Let's see a show of
vecindad.
hands.
¿Cuántos oficiales han
Couple of
estado
you.
aquí en el
The rest of you
consejo
never been to
anteriormente?
City
El resto
Hall.
nunca han
You
venido
need
aquí
to
al
know
ayuntamiento.
that there's three
Deben
of
saber
us
que hay tres de
that sit in
nosotros
this chamber
que nos sentamos en
that
esta
are
cámara
very closely aligned with the LAPD.
que somos
Former Chief
muy
Parks, Councilmember
asociados
Smith, the
con
Reserve
el
Officer, and me. You have tremendous
señor
support here
Parks,
in this council chamber with all of our colleagues.
oficial Smith
You
y
need
yo.
to send that message back that we recognize what you do, we appreciate what
Tienen
you do.
ustedes que
Because
decirle a sus
oftentimes people
colegas que
think,
nosotros
does anyone in
apreciamos
City
lo que
Hall ever
hacemos?
care what we're doing every
Porque
day on the
muchas veces
streets?
se
When you're
piensa,
getting shot at,
hay
when the help
alguien que le
calls, the
importa
assistance
lo que
calls,
hacemos
the domestic
aquí en el
violence calls, all the
ayuntamiento,
issues that take
se llaman
place.
los
We're here and we
de
care. We need to
violencia
send that message to you.
doméstica.
Today's a day of
Estamos
great
aquí
appreciation
y sí,
for the
nos
accomplishments you've
ocupamos.
made, and I commend
Es una
Janice
gran
Hahn
apreciación
for
que
bringing that
tenemos
forward. I know Woody Fleming's been working, and he
para
said, make
todo
sure you
el
make some
trabajo
good
que ustedes
comments about.
hacen.
I don't have to stretch to make
Asegúrese.
good comments about the
No tengo
LAPD.
que
You folks earn it and
verdaderamente
deserve it every single day.
agrandar
I
los
wish you and your family a very happy
comentarios positivos con
Thanksgiving.
respecto al
And while people
Departamento
are
de la
stuffing their
Policía,
face with turkey,
esperamos que ustedes
officers will be
tengan
out there on
muchas
patrol,
felicidades aquí en Acción
wondering
de
when they're going to
Gracias.
get code
Y
7,
mientras que
wondering
ustedes
if they're going to
están
get to their family
comiendo
that evening
pavo,
to enjoy the
el
turkey.
resto de las
So to all of you, God
policías
bless you and thank you for
van a
being here.
estar allá
Congratulations to all of you.
patrullando. Así que felicidades a todos.
Mr. Labange.
Hey,
Muchas
Ms. Hahn, I want to
gracias.
say it
Señor
again, as you
Labange,
said, when you do it
una vez
right, do it right. That's what it's all about.
más.
Kevin,
Lo hace bien, se
your
hace
leadership
bien.
there
Kevin,
and the city attorney's
su
program,
liderazgo allí
our
en
fine
el
police
programa
officers whose
de
badge
la
is this great city hall.
Oficina de los
And I hope you
Abogados.
take 5 extra minutes.
Tome
And if you need
5
a
minutos
pass, I'll tell
adicionales
Deputy
si
Chief
necesita un pase.
Paysinger, they get a pass, go to the
Que le den
tower. It's a
pase.
beautiful day
Vaya
today.
aquí a la
Look over
torre.
this great city of the angels.
Mira aquí
But also
esta gran
stand
ciudad de
behind this
Los
building in
Ángeles.
safety.
Y también
And the other city
ustedes
departments
aquí
that all
en
work
esta-
together. I just wanted to
y
thank
todos
you,
los-
Kevin.
Entonces,
The
no
leadership
todos
for the
trabajan.
fight, because I remember that.
be here, 'cause I
And
love
Ms.
the
Hahn
pelea.
greatly
Por el
believed in that
liderazgo, señor
neighborhood
Hahn.
prosecutor program.
I know.
And I would like to see it expanded so they go
Quiero
after
que
those conditional
se
use permits.
aumente, se
And all
agrande
that.
este
And that's Chief Paysinger. I also
este
think it should be
programa.
extended.
Chief
There is a
Paysinger,
violent
esto también-
incident in a neighborhood. The zoning administrator should have a hearing within 60 days on that
Si hay un
establishment.
incidente de
Nightclubs where people come
violencia,
out and do bad things, it should be called to the attention right away, and we focus on it.
donde
So
la
I want
gente
to
sale
send
y
a
hacen
salute
cosas malas,
all of you involved,
definitivamente
from building
tienen
and
que
safety to the Los
presentarse aquí
Angeles
y
Police
nosotros tenemos
Department,
que
to the city
enfocarnos en
attorney,
eso.
to the other
Gracias
agencies that help.
al
It makes a
Departamento de la
difference,
Policía,
because it
a
makes a
todas
difference, because
las
that
otras
one right there
agencias,
is smiling. Right
vecina,
there, she's smiling.
es-
And that's who we
hacen
work
la
for,
diferencia.
the people of Los Angeles. Thank you, Ms.
Está
Hahn, for the
sonriendo.
great job of doing, when we do it
Y
right,
ahí
we do it right.
nosotros
And I saw the man from the
lo
LA
hacemos
Times in
bien.
here today. This is a great story
Y
right
el
here
reportero
of the
de
city working for
Los
the hard work
Angeles
of the people.
Times.
Yeah,
Thank
let's
you.
see if
una
this
gran
gets in any of our papers, this
relato.
great story.
Que
Well,
esta
yeah,
gran
we'll have a
historia,
little
a ver
bet
si
going. Which
esto-
paper will pick this up? Okay,
¿Qué
my second
periódico
great
va a
story,
poner esto?
and I'll
Y
try to
mi
be quick,
segunda,
but
voy a ser bien
another
rápido.
neighborhood in Watts, and
Otra
this is another
vecindad
success
de Watts.
story, and it involved my
Otra-
Watts Neighborhood
otro relato
Council,
de un gran
who
éxito
joined me here
del
today in honoring
concilio
these officers. There was a home
vecindario de
located
la
on
ciudad de
Parmalee
Watts,
Avenue in
una
Watts
casa
that
en
had been a
Parmalee
nuisance
Avenue
for several
que
years. It was a
era
known narcotic
una
house that was
molestia,
littered with drug
se sabía que había
paraphernalia. A
narcóticos,
child care facility was located just
y
around the
había
corner.
una niñería
Women, seniors, children in the
donde
area
iban los
were
niños
afraid to walk
frente por
by,
frente.
both for their safety,
Personas mayores,
because but also because the area around this house was littered with needles. Beginning about 5 months ago, our Southeast officers, once again, Deputy City Attorney Kevin Gilligan, started working to eradicate the situation. They focused on this problem home, raiding it, patrolling the street on a regular basis. They made a number of arrests. And because of their effort and dedication, the people who live on Parmalee have their neighborhood back. And according to Woody Fleming from our Watts Neighborhood Council, the people were literally dancing in the street. That's an amazing visual. But that's what it means to people in the city of Los Angeles to feel safe. That's what it means to people to have a neighborhood that they can love and feel safe for their children to walk around every day. This is a great story I'm going to pass out the certs, and I'm going to have Woody say something, and then I would like to have Chief Pacenger come up and say a few things.
Quiero que Woody diga algo y también que
Kevin, I have another one for you.
Kevin, tengo otra para ti.
But this is a separate story, so you're gonna notice that this was about a separate incident. Lieutenant Regina Scott, Operation South Bureau, not here.
Teniente Regina Scott. Sargento
Aita Esten. Thank you.
Gracias.
Sergeant Tamara Van Dyne.
Sargento Tamara Van Dyne. Gracias.
Detective John Zambos.
Detective John Zambos. Gracias.
Senior Lead Officer Robert Yanez.
Y el oficial mayor
Woody, I would like you to say a few words, and again, on behalf of a very, very grateful city. Thank you, officers. Thank you, city attorneys. Thank you, neighborhood council members that care about their community. This is a great Thanksgiving story.
Thank you, Councilmember Hahn and members of the City Council. This is a story that is unbelievable and untold, but very true and very exciting. On that street on Parmley, the kids were literally, when they pulled them out, they were literally dancing in the street. The old folks, the senior citizens were so happy. 15 years that this dope house has been there. These are people on heroin, 60, 65, 70 years old. But because of Officer Yanez, because of Van Dyne, because of Zambos, and because of Estone, Southeast Police Department has helped to eradicate this. This is a great story. We have a great councilwoman, and we in Watts are doing the kinds of things to make this city better and better. And I want to thank you so very much, Councilmember.
Thank you. Chief Pacenger, I'd like for you to come up and close this out.
Thank you, Councilmember Hahn. Council President, members of the council, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to add my voice to all of yours who have taken the opportunity here to show your appreciation for the members of the LAPD, particularly the ones at South Bureau, who work so diligently and passionately at what they do. This is not about job. This is not about something that they do because they come to work. This is about passion. This is about love. This is about dedication. So on behalf of the LAPD, I'd just like again to add my voice and say thank you, but particular thanks to two people. First, the City Attorney's Office for being such wonderful partners to the community. Without them, we would literally be nothing. And also a very special thanks to Councilmember Hahn. She is really the buoy that kind of keeps us afloat and keeps our feet to the fire. So thank you from all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hahn. We appreciate it. And that closes our council presentations for today. Madam Clerk, if we go to the next order of business.
Next item, Mr. President, is item number 3, and that's confirmation of Dr. Julie Mendoza to the Board of Library Commissioners.
Okay. Can I ask Ms. Mendoza to come forward, please?
Recommendation, strong recommendation out of committee.
Mr. Labange, our chair, has a strong recommendation. So any members wishing to be heard on this? Seeing none, let's open the roll. Let's close the roll and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Thank you for your patience, Commissioner, and congratulations. All right, next order of business.
Next items are 4 and 5, and those are both confirmations to the LA Homeless Services Authority.
Okay, can we please ask both Ms. Avila and Mr. Morel to come forward to the table? If you'll pardon the talking from the chair, colleagues, just wanted to say that these were both before the Housing Community Economic Development Committee and received our endorsement, but we'd like to afford the opportunity for both of our candidates to say anything introductory if they'd like to, and then Ms. Perry would like to be our first speaker. Please, anything? Or would you like to? Okay, we'll go straight to Ms. Perry.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
As one who represents the Skid Row area, obviously, this is a very critical issue to my district, and I believe should be a critical issue to the entire region. And I've made no secret about my concerns with respect to two of the nominations, and as I make my comments, understand that they're not directed at a particular individual, but rather some litigation that had been brought against the city of Los Angeles and the impact that litigation has had on the community located in Central City East. And I want the council members to know that I have spoken with Mr. Morell about his appointment to the LAHSA Commission, and he and Ramona Ripston were very gracious in joining us on our monthly walk in Skid Row. I believe that I've stated the importance of this issue and the impact, the enormity on our entire region, and most importantly on the people who are homeless and mentally ill. I have expressed my concerns, as I will today again, on the lawsuits, plaintiffs named Justin and Fitzgerald, that were brought against the city of Los Angeles having to do with homelessness. I believe that these suits had a negative effect on the city's ability to help people who cannot or cannot help themselves. Some ground has been gained in the past 4 years, but I believe that we need to do far more before we can truly see any difference in the number of people who are homeless or at risk of remaining homeless. And I have shared my concept about the LAHSA Commission with both Mr. Morell and Ms. Ripston, and I have a strong belief, and I've expressed that to both Morell and Ripston, that LAHSA commissioners should be people with planning experience, expertise in areas of health and mental health services, infectious diseases, supportive housing, social service programs, and most importantly, resources that should be dedicated for homeless services and housing at all levels. And in the very immediate future, I plan on joining with the county in a mutually beneficial discussion on that issue. I have a few questions for Mr. Morell, if I can have some time. Mr. Chair? Mr. Chair?
Absolutely, we will hold that.
Thank you. Mr. Morell, if you could just give us maybe your perspective on the Justin and if you wish, on Fitzgerald lawsuits that I referenced in my earlier comment.
Certainly. Let me first say, though, Ms. Perry, that it was a pleasure to join you at the November 2nd walkthrough of Skid Row. But I must disagree with you. It wasn't a matter of grace on my part or graciousness on my part. It was a reflection, I think, of the responsibility that I have and would have as a commissioner to understand the gravity and scope of the problem we're dealing with. And it's a critical problem, and it's obviously one that has fortunately come to the attention of the public at large, thanks in part to the Los Angeles Times story. But it is a problem that I have lived with, I have known all my life as a resident of Los Angeles, and particularly as a lawyer who worked downtown for 20 years. This is a problem that needs to be addressed and needs to be addressed now. With respect to the litigation that you mentioned, I was involved as volunteer co-counsel of record, pro bono basis, with the ACLU in connection with a lawsuit that was filed in November of 2000. That litigation was settled with the city in November of 2001. And one of the results of the litigation was the entry of a preliminary injunction, because it expired earlier this month, a preliminary injunction that lasted for a period of 48 months, which said essentially that the LAPD should not be stopping individuals without reasonable suspicion, should not be searching them without probable cause, should not be confiscating their unabandoned property without notice. All of those were issues which I felt as an individual went to the personal rights and liberties of the individuals affected. I believe that people do have those rights, whether they are homeless or not, and I continue to believe that. And I think the fact that the litigation settled with the city reflects the fact that ultimately the city understood that too. So, you know, I don't apologize for that litigation, but the litigation is at an end. There was an opportunity to extend the injunctive relief provision, but that opportunity lapsed, and the litigation is now fully over. With respect to the other litigation you asked about, I am much less familiar with that litigation, in part because I chose specifically not to participate in that litigation. That litigation essentially treats homelessness as a status by asking the court to hold unconstitutional a provision of the LA Municipal Code. And I, as an individual, did not want to devote my time and attention to that issue. And instead, I have been hoping, since I've been exposed to the homelessness problem, I've been hoping to use whatever available resources I have to try to deal with the root causes of the problem and not to treat homelessness as a status, but rather instead to focus on ways in which the homeless problem can be resolved. And obviously, homelessness is but a symptom of many much larger problems.
Another quick question. As a matter of policy, would you support state legislation for the involuntary commitment of homeless persons with mental illness who are at extreme risk of doing harm to themselves or having harm done to them by others?
I would be very interested in exploring that possibility and ascertaining what the pros and cons are. I do not have a position on that at the moment. I haven't investigated that thoroughly enough, but I would be very interested in doing so.
What were your impressions after your walk on Skid Row? What you felt you saw, and what was your reaction to that?
I had been on the row as a result of the Justin litigation during daylight hours. I had not been there during the evening hours. And so the opportunity to meet with Captain Smith, the opportunity to speak with you and the members of the Central City East Association, Estela Lopez, was enormously eye-opening and revelatory. I thought that perhaps I had a glimpse of what Skid Row was like by reading Steve Lopez's pieces, but it is one thing to read, it is another to experience and to walk through. I was profoundly impacted by the enormity of the problem, by the multivariant ways in which the problem has its root causes in other issues that we have chosen as a society not to deal with or not to deal with fully. And, I would hope in my small way, whether I have your support or not, I would hope I would have your support. But I would hope that in some small way I would be able to bring to bear the resources, the knowledge, the experience that I have as a lawyer who's been in this community all of his life, who's been practicing law for 25 years, who has clients, who has a firm with clients, who have businesses that they own in the downtown area and in or around Skid Row. And those clients have interests, and I hope that I would, in part, serve to help represent those interests on this commission.
Thank you, Mr. Morrell. Just so that my colleagues are aware, 70% of homeless women who are in this area report being assaulted within 2 weeks of becoming homeless. Most chronically mentally ill homeless individuals spend an average of 8 very hard years on the streets in downtown Los Angeles. And I think, Mr. Morrell, you and I had the pleasure of walking with some of those people that night. This is a difficult one for me, and I don't believe in sandbagging people, so that's why I shared my concerns with Mr. Morrell and Ms. Ripson when she comes back at the end of the month. And I have been very straightforward about historic litigation and my belief that the impact on the population of people who are dually diagnosed has been a contributing factor towards the catastrophe that has been here for far too long. And of course, Steve Lopez's articles were incredible, but that this problem has been going on for a long time.
Oh, for sure.
Much longer than that. This is a difficult issue because I do respect you, I do respect your credentials, and it's a hard one for me, but as I said to you earlier today, I got to vote my conscience. I think the more ground we are making, the more we're falling behind, and it was very devastating to me personally when we went through this litigation process, because I do represent the area, and the outcome of which has been to see more people of color who are dually diagnosed, many of whom are veterans, which is just astonishing and heartbreaking. 91,000 homeless people in the county. We've got to change the way that we address this problem. I hope that anybody who's considering becoming a LAHSA commissioner understands the enormity of this challenge. It's not just a commission where we're voting on contracts, the genesis of those contracts is policy, and it is setting policy. And that's why I said to you earlier, I will be joining with the county to create a different vision for LAHSA in the immediate future. We've got even that night when we were walking, I think when we went back to the courtyard at the Mission, there were a number of frail elderly women there, and then 2 men walked in and, with their jail uniforms still on, and they were all sleeping together in the same space that night. And I'm not just talking about women who were in their 60s. These were women who were at least 75 years old and beyond. So I want to say thank you, and I've communicated with you my concerns, and you know how I'm going to vote. But I felt that this is I very rarely vote against any commissioner. It's something that I just don't normally do because it's the prerogative of the mayor to nominate whomever he wants. But this to me is an issue of life and death for the people who are living on the street.
Yes, and I just want to assure you, Ms. Perry, regardless of how you vote, that it is that life and death issue that brings me here. I have plenty of other things to do with my time, and this is an issue that is of utmost importance to me. It has become so in recent years. I hope that my involvement with litigation that is now formally over did not adversely impact the population. I hope that I didn't exacerbate any of the problems that we both saw. I don't believe I did. I don't believe that litigation, the litigation I was involved with, had that effect. But if it did, that would certainly have been an unintended consequence. And I hope that if that was a problem, that I can, by service on this authority, can repent in some way for that kind of conduct. So I thank you for your comments.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Mr. Weiss.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Ms. Perry, I want you to know I paid very close attention to what you said, and I think you expressed yourself, as you always do on this issue, incredibly well, incredibly persuasively, and you have made a name and a mark for yourself in this city with your knowledge and your, the very strong personal, emotional nature with which you contend with these issues. You've made them real for so many people, and I have absolutely no issue or concern with the good faith and strong public policy nature with which you've approached these issues, and in fact with how you've approached the issue of your agreement to disagree with this nominee in a very respectful and healthy manner. I want to stand up because, colleagues, this is someone whom I know quite well as a lawyer and as a public policy advocate. Mr. Morell is a lawyer's lawyer. If you needed legal guidance in this city, or if you needed public policy guidance, there aren't that many people you might consider calling before you'd call Mr. Morell. And while this is a policy issue where I understand there are historic reasons for people to have agreed or disagreed in the past, Mr. Morell is coming forth as a nominee of the mayor to try to help this new mayor craft a holistic policy in an area that the mayor counts as a priority, that Ms. Perry counts as a priority, that all of us count as a priority, and that Mr. Morell counts as a priority. And I think the proper thing to do when you have a nominee before you with as stellar a record as Mr. Morell, I mean, truly, it is impossible to find a blemish, a flaw, or a fault at all in his track record, and that is not always the case with commission appointees. It just isn't. When you have someone who is an A+ in every category, you want your people who are getting straight A+s making policy decisions in this city. So I'd encourage an aye vote.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I was pleased to hear Ms. Perry's statements. I know there are people within the ACLU that think the police department is part of the problem. Quite frankly, I think it's the other way around. I always thought we were part of the solution. As a reserve police officer, I want you to know for decades, the reserve police officers of the city of LAPD would gather up thousands of dollars and go out and collect donations of clothing, etc., socks, underwear, hair products, soap, etc., and a few days before Christmas go down and deliver it to the homeless along the Main Street area. I care very much about this, even though I don't have a big homeless problem in my district. I told Jan Perry when I came down here, anything you want, you have my support. I feel, as I look over the record of the ACLU in dealing with the homeless, that you've been part of the problem, not part of the solution. That you've tied our hands as a city, and police officers' hands in particular, in trying to help the homeless, not to harass them. I think part of the problems we're having today are the result of what has been coming out of the ACLU and the lawsuits that have been filed against us repeatedly on the issue of homelessness. The ability is to stop someone from urinating or defecating in public streets and trying to get them to obey the law and focus where they need to go, not on the public streets. We can't do that anymore. The Just In Case and others have restricted our ability as a city to maintain law and order, as well as maintain the social amenities that go along with a city. And I think the ACLU has damaged our ability to do that. And I cannot in good conscience vote for anyone who's participated in that public policy movement. I think whether you did it, I'm sure you did it with well-meaning and good intent. That is what the ACLU is about. But the actions you've taken has been counterproductive to the city of LA, counterproductive to the law-abiding citizens of Los Angeles, and counterproductive to everything Jan Perry has tried to do to bring some social grace to the people there and try and provide them with the services they need. And our hands are so restricted. I can't in good conscience support this nomination. And I say to the mayor, I appreciate his recommendation, his commitment to the ideals of the ACLU, but in this case, it is not the right appointment. So I'm sorry, sir, I can't in good faith vote for you today. It is nothing personal. It is just the organization and what they have done to hurt us, I think.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Mr. Parks is our next speaker.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also would like to ask Mr. Morrell a couple of questions.
Certainly.
In dealing with the issue of homelessness, you mentioned that you had been to Skid Row only once at night. How much has your personal involvement been in evaluating the Skid Row issue before getting involved in that lawsuit you recounted?
Well, in terms of before becoming involved in the lawsuit, other than my own personal encounters with homeless, where I live, where I work, over the course of over 40 years, not more than, I would say, your average individual.
So primarily your knowledge of the homeless problem dealt with where you lived and where you worked, and I would assume that that's not on Skid Row.
I worked downtown for 20 years, but yes, I did not work on Skid Row.
Okay.
Correct.
The other issue Ms. Perry asked you about, the involuntary incarceration or placement of mentally ill people. When that legislation was going through, did you take a position on it at all, or did you evaluate it to come to a conclusion as to whether it was harmful to the population that it was intended to help, or in any way evaluate it?
No, I did not, and I don't know whether the organization as such took a position, but the organization's lobbyists are not under my control.
Okay. What about the involuntary issue of dealing with medication for mentally ill people? Did you or as part of ACLU take a position on that?
Again, not me personally. I have not been involved in advocating policy positions. The only involvement I have had professionally with respect to this issue was with respect to the enforcement of individuals' rights under the Constitution, and that's litigation that, as I told Ms. Perry, has long ago disappeared.
Okay. The other issue is that in dealing with the LAPD injunction, were any of those issues about stops and moving a property ever proven, or was it just a case that was settled based on the initial allegations?
There was a temporary restraining order issued by Judge Baird of the U.S. District Court, and that was followed then by a consensual injunction entered into between the ACLU and counsel for the individuals, as well as the city attorney's office.
I understand the injunction and it was consensual, but were any of those allegations proved?
There were declarations that were submitted that the court obviously found somewhat persuasive in order to have granted the
Were
temporary
any
restraining
declarations
order.
from police officers, or were they just the people that believed they were harmed?
Councilman, I'm racking my brain to recall specifically which declarations were submitted at the time. On our side, I know there were declarations from Mary Ann Callahan and from individual homeless persons. I don't have a specific recollection of who the declarations were submitted on behalf of in opposition to those declarations. This is now 5 years ago, and my involvement, to be honest with you, was relatively peripheral. There were 4 or 5 lawyers involved in the case. I was not one of those who was principally involved.
Have you done any study as a sense of this county's criminal justice system as it relates to how they deal with homeless, what's there in the system?
Have I performed any studies? No, I have not.
Has it come to your attention at all that in many instances that mentally ill people may get some of the medication and services only when they're in the criminal justice system as opposed to being able to locate them outside the system?
I think that that's true.
Okay. The other issue is that, and was concerned that what you mentioned, that you've found it very insightful in the recent Times articles about homelessness as it relates to Mr. Lopez's columns. Is that the most in-depth analysis that you've looked at that issue?
No, I mean, I have, since being nominated by the mayor, I've had the opportunity to look at the homeless count information, to look at the audit of LAHSA, to understand that beyond the homelessness problem itself, that LAHSA as an entity has serious problems, and I think Ms. Perry knows this quite well. There are structural problems, there are administrative problems. All of those are problems that need to be dealt with at the same time as we're dealing with the mega issues. And I would hope that my experience as an attorney and as one who has been in this community for my entire life would help to bring to bear some assistance with respect to those kinds of structural and administrative needs over and above the homelessness issue per se.
Okay. And I would just like to say that probably on any other commission, I would support your nomination, but on this commission, and as I mentioned to you on the phone, that Ms. Perry does have a significant issue with homeless. We have some homeless in the 8th district, but not nearly the concern she has. And although you mentioned earlier that if there were some unintended consequences of the injunction, that you are sorry to hear that. I just want to tell you there were significant unintended consequences because we have people living on the street and many of them in their own body fluid, and that gives an impression anyway that the city of LA supports the fact that you can live in doorways, the fact that they're younger, they're minority, they're veterans, and a variety of things, that it hampers the department's effort to get them into the criminal justice system, to get them the care they need, may have cost many people their lives. And so I would say on any other commission, I certainly would be impressed with your credentials, but on this one, I believe the prior work in this area certainly causes me some great concerns. And as I mentioned, I'm going to support Mrs. Perry on this position because she's dealing with the bulk of those concerns in the city of Los Angeles.
I respectfully disagree, and I understand, Councilman, your position, and I thank you.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, we have Mr. Zine, Mr. Rosendahl, Mr. Labonge, and Mr. Weiss for a second time. I do want to ask if any of those members want to discuss or ask questions to Ms. Avila. If not, we could maybe cleave the two off. You do? Okay. Well,
I just see she's great, so just pass her.
Okay. Mr. Zine, did you want to address Ms. Avila on anything? If not,
I wanted to ask her a question before she fell asleep.
Okay. All right, Mr. Zine.
No one's asked any questions.
Go ahead, Mr. Zine.
Do you have anything in your background that would taint you from this position? Have you filed any lawsuits against the city? Have you done anything to harm the LAPD and their mission to carry out responsibilities for public safety?
I hope not, council member. I am a former member of the police commission. I don't
Oh,
know
well,
if
you know
and
what? That's all you had to say. So you know half the problems because you are a former member of the police
But
commission.
I think I should also say that I am also on the board of the Southern California ACLU.
Okay. So's our mayor, or he was. I'm not against the ACLU. What I'm against is people who prevent police officers from doing their job. I've got 37 years with the LAPD. I'm still a reserve, and I go out there on patrol. I've been on Skid Row at night making arrests. I've been there in the day as I drive down the street. And I was recently in San Francisco. And walking from my hotel to the convention center, I was accosted by homeless people who wanted money. I didn't want to give them any money. And I thought, I need to let the mayor of San Francisco know how I felt in his town walking down Market Street being accosted by people who wanted money. In fact, it was interesting, a homeless lady came up to me and said, I think you might be in the wrong neighborhood, sir. I said, well, I think you're right. I'm going to get out of this neighborhood. That's the message that I received when I was in San Francisco. I'm sure the mayor, Mayor Gavin's not appreciative of that, but that's the fact. San Francisco has an incredible homeless population, and I don't want to go back there for a conference or a convention because, well, I don't feel comfortable. I don't want to go to that location. People come to downtown Los Angeles and counter homeless. I represent the Southwest Valley. We have a few homeless, but not any great numbers. And when I look at the police department's responsibility to provide public safety and lawsuits that are filed to prevent them from establishing public safety, and Councilmember Perry, who's trying to clean up downtown. Now, clean up downtown doesn't mean to not have compassion for people. It means trying to have a semblance of order, not to have people defecating on the public sidewalks. We had a police facility, it was at 419 South Spring. It's now moved out. You'd walk in the stairwell and there'd be the stench of urine because that was the restroom for the homeless population. Didn't do much for the community. Didn't do much for the neighborhood of Los Angeles. I have a concern about what the ACLU has filed. Have you personally, sir, been involved in any lawsuits against the police department in this endeavor for them to do their job on Skid Row in that area?
I don't believe I have, because I believe that the litigation that I was involved in that concluded, that was settled 4 years ago, is litigation that did not affect those kinds of concerns that you have and that I share. The concerns that we had were simply with respect to is there reasonable suspicion to stop someone? Is there a probable cause to search someone?
But isn't that the basic for a law enforcement officer to initiate action? You've got to have probable cause before you stop someone. You've got to have something initiated other than the person is a certain ethnicity or dressed a certain way. You've got to have that, the basic constitutional rights for people not to be accosted by police. Isn't that already there?
That's correct. And the question was whether or not whether those constitutional rights were being afforded to those who are homeless. And all that the injunction, you've hit the nail on the head, because all that the injunction in fact provided for, and it's the only reason I think the city agreed to it, is that it essentially said to the police, do what the Constitution requires, nothing more, nothing less. And that's a regime that the LAPD had been able to live with for 4 years. The regime is off, but the Constitution remains. And so the litigation really, in my view, had no particular impact upon the rights that individuals have, except as insurance that the Constitution was followed. So I'm not here to defend people who are permitted to sit in waste, who are permitted to defecate on themselves or defecate on public property. Those are not constitutional rights that anyone has. I'm not here to defend the current litigation that the ACLU has taken on appeal to the Ninth Circuit. I'm not involved in that case. I deliberately decided that I would not become involved in that case. So I hope that, again, I apologize if there was anything that in my past that has caused people concern about my position, but I just want to make clear to you, Councilman, that my position is that what is needed now is a comprehensive solution to an unfathomably difficult and important problem. And I'm committed to doing that. I'm not committed to any more litigation against the city. I want to try to resolve this problem from within, and to see if I can help systemically make the situation better.
Well, clearly, it's a huge problem, and in the Skid Row area, where they're trying to revitalize, they're putting in condos and apartments and trying to bring back some life. I know previous council members for that area really told the LAPD, hands off, just leave this alone and don't mess with it. And unfortunately, what happens, it manifests itself, and it grows to the point where now we have an area that oftentimes is uncontrollable. I know we used to have the B-wagons, which would go and pick up the derelicts off the street. The Sundance case threw that out. But when I look at our mission in public safety and government is to provide a sense of order, a sense of discipline in a community so we don't have people having to walk over homeless people, have to walk through defecated areas. To make it a semblance, as you live in the 5th District, I'm sure you don't have that in your neighborhood. I wouldn't want that in my neighborhood. Why should anyone have to tolerate that? And we have tolerated for so long. So maybe it's not you directly, but maybe that cloud surrounds you. I've never spoken to you before. I've never met you before. I think we go to the same barber. But other than that, there's no connection. You like
or
that?
don't attend the same barber.
A little humor to the
I think
same.
you're out of order, Mr. Zine.
Mr. Parks is even laughing. But when I look at what
And if
my
I could ask you to wrap up your comments.
I'm going to wrap it. Oh, you're not the president yet, but order me around. Councilmember Perry, I've got to give my heart and soul to what she has really done in that community. She has given all that she can do. And I go out there at night because I feel I can protect myself being a reserve officer while I still work there. But I have to align myself with someone who is more knowledgeable in that area, an individual that wants to come in to have an impact, which would have a definite impact on her community. So I'm going to join, and I think this room may be slanted, that there's a number of us on this side have great concern and reservation about a position. And I know there's someone else who's very controversial. I've never heard your name before. Very controversial, who the mayor wants to appoint to this commission. I think that's going to create a lot more discussion than this particular discussion. So I appreciate your patience. I appreciate your understanding. Thank you for coming from the police commission to something good. I think you have some great insight to that. And good, bad, or indifferent, I'm going to join my colleagues in the negative vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zine, for your questions and all of your comments. If there is no objection, I will separate the two right now. Folks want it? Okay, if there's no objection, why don't we separate the two? If we can, and if there's nobody who wants to speak on Ms. Avila, why don't we open the roll?
And just for council's
You do want it?
information,
Okay,
that's item number
that's why I
4.
want, okay. So why don't we keep with this, Mr. Rosendahl, you're the next speaker then.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate all my colleagues' robust discussion on one of the most intractable problems in America, homelessness. 91,000, I'm told, in the county, 45,000 in the city, only gets bigger. That's why we on the City Council are going to form a committee on homelessness, so we have some muscle. And that committee is going to come up with timetables and deadlines and schedules and look at New York and look at San Francisco and look at other cities that are tackling the problem and see if we can come up with something that's the LA strategy. Secondly, we're going to take Prop 63 money and drill it down to the basic services and housing and support systems that need to be given to the mentally ill homeless. And we're going to do that. LA County hasn't gotten its fair share of Prop 63 money, and we're going to see that we get it. I agree with my colleague Jan Perry that the solution in part is to take a facility, have housing in it, and have multi-services in it that work with the people who are homeless, and that we need to do that. We need also to do outreach, where we literally go to a homeless person and find out what the story is and see if we can work with them to come into some kind of assisted living program. So we're going to be strong on that. But let me just get in the middle of this. First of all, I hear you're great and nobody's having controversy with you, ma'am. But let me ask the gentleman sitting next to you, what's the big deal? What happened 4 years ago? What was the lawsuit? And why do my colleagues have such opinions that they're expressed?
Well, I tried to explain to Councilmember Zine, Councilmember Rosendahl, and first, let me say that I'm sorry we didn't have an opportunity to speak. I came by your office the day of the committee hearing, but you were not available. And I know how important this is to you, and I live next door to your district, and I have seen, in and about the Westwood area and the Veterans area, the enormity of the problem that exists in your district as well. The litigation is litigation, as I tried to explain, which was initiated 5 years ago, which was settled 4 years ago, and in effect there was a stipulated injunction entered into between the plaintiffs and the city by which the police department was simply proscribed from doing that which the Constitution already prohibits, namely stopping people without reasonable suspicion, searching them without probable cause, taking their possessions without and destroying them without notice. Those are provisions of the Constitution that shouldn't have needed litigation about. But according to the clients that we represented, those kinds of things were occurring. And the court, the judge, Judge Baird of the U.S. District Court, found that that had occurred and that's why she entered a TRO. But the city ultimately agreed that this kind of conduct would not be appropriate. They said at the same time that they did not engage in that conduct, but they didn't object to having a court enter an order that said, you shall abide by the Constitution. That's all that this litigation provided for, and the litigation, there was a finite timeline for the injunction from November of 2001 to the first week in November of this year. That injunction is no longer in place. The only thing that's still in place is the Constitution, and in my view, the litigation was in effect redundant of the Constitution, and that's why I don't think it impacted the problem that we have and that we're trying to address, that all of us are trying to address.
In fact, are you saying that we were criminalizing homelessness?
No, I don't think. There is litigation out there that essentially suggests that that's what is going on by the city enforcing its no sleeping and no lying on the streets property. That is not the litigation I was involved in. I don't believe that that you can, in effect, make homelessness a status. I don't think that it's appropriate to characterize discretionary acts of the city as being homeless, adverse, as criminalizing homelessness when the acts that the city undertakes are discretionary. And there's a legitimate disagreement that the court will ultimately resolve. I am not a part of that litigation. I do not intend to become a part of that or any other litigation in this area while I serve on this authority, assuming I'm confirmed.
I have a question. I now have the authority to have permit parking in certain areas where from 1 a.m. to 6 a.m. you can't park unless you have a certificate. And this is directed, frankly, at people who are in campers or in cars that are basically living in there.
Yes.
There is no place for those cars and campers to go. I brought the city leadership in here and say, well, where can we go to put these campers and these cars? Nobody has come up with a place for that. But I'm moving forward with my constituents, especially in Venice, who've had enough of campers and cars on their streets. So if they want to come to me and get permit parking for that area there and move those people out of there, I'm going to support that. But what is the solution to this issue as you see it?
Oh boy, it is so multifaceted, and I am not exactly a tabula rasa, but I'm somebody who comes to the process willing to listen to everybody's ideas, because we've gone too long with a problem that hasn't been addressed effectively by anyone and through any project. On the issue you just raised, I'm going to direct an individual who spends the evenings in the Rancho Park parking lot in his car to you to find a place for him. But moving people from their cars, from one location to another, obviously, has certain short-term benefits, but it really doesn't get at the root problem. And I hope to work with you, Councilman, and your excellent staff to try to deal with the problems that you face in your district and the problems that everybody else faces.
Well, colleagues, in my comment, closing here, we're going to form a committee here on the council, and we're going to address those issues. We need to have locations where campers and cars can go. We need to address the whole issue of homelessness. We need to do outreach. We need to have institutionalization of some homeless who are truly unable to handle their own issues anymore. We need to have facilities that have services tied into it for the chronically homeless people who are chronic. They're not necessarily going to get out of it. We need to realize that, and we need to institutionalize them. When the government's got rid of institutionalization of mentally ill in the 80s, no one has provided leadership to deal with that issue. And so we need to come back to the table and have institutions where people who are mentally ill get a chance to get services. And we obviously need to take the homeless off the street into assisted living. We need a federal government more responsive to the needs of its own people and giving us federal resources for this. It is not just a city issue, it's a national issue. And I want to congratulate the two of you for coming forward to be part of this awesome challenge. Thank you.
We look forward to working with you.
Mr. Labange.
Rebecca Avila, thank you for your service to the city of Los Angeles in the past and now in the present. And I appreciate your interested in serving. Wherever we come from, we remember our experiences, and I hope once you see the experiences as broad as possible as from an authority such as this, you'll be able to do the right thing for the people of Los Angeles. The only question I want you to think about, because I've been dwelling on, because I think we're immune to it, and you mentioned, Bill, 91,000 people are homeless. Do we name it the Friendless Commission Authority? Because what friend would let anyone sleep on the street in muck if they didn't have any friends? You know, what have we come to as a society? We say homeless, but there's more to it. And the mental illness thing that you spoke of is gigantic. Thank you. Appreciate it. 56 seconds.
Mr. Weiss.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I move that we approve Ms. Avila's nomination today and that we continue Mr. Morell's nomination until November 30.
Ms. Perry.
I'd like to request that we split those actions so that we could vote on Ms. Avila and then vote separately on the request for the continuance.
Okay. If there's nothing further from the members, let's take separate votes. The first is item number 4, Ms. Avila for confirmation. Please open the roll. Please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Congratulations. And now we have item 5 before us, Mr. Morell. There's a question of whether or not to continue, so let's take that as a first vote. A yes vote is a vote to continue. A no vote is to not continue. Please open the roll. Please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
7 ayes, 4 noes.
Okay, that motion does not carry. So we have the vote before us today. Mr. Garcetti.
Point of information just for everybody. If we vote on a nominee before us and who does not get 8 votes, what happens? Was that carried over for an additional
Right,
vote?
today is not the deadline, so if there's 8 votes to confirm, then there's 8 votes to confirm. If there's not 8 votes to confirm, it either gets carried over unless there's 8 votes to not confirm or receive and file or whatever it is.
And it just gets carried from agenda to agenda?
Correct, until the deadline is
Thank
met.
you.
Okay, let's open the roll on confirmation. Close the roll and tabulate the vote.
7 ayes, 4 noes.
Okay, so we'll be back on the agenda tomorrow. Next item.
Next item.
Forthwith on item 3, please, and 4.
And next item is item number 4, and that's, item number 6, and that's confirmation of Ms. Margaret Leal Sotelo to the Board of Civil Service Commissioners.
Okay. And Mr. Parks, I did receive your request to take item 43 out of order. Let's get the commissioners done, and then we'll come to 43. Members, we're down to only 10 members present to bear quorum, so please, nobody to leave unannounced. This is item number 6 now before us. Members of the council wishing to speak on Ms. Leal Sotelo's nomination? Members of the council wishing to speak? Seeing none, let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Congratulations. Forthwith on this item as well. Next item.
Item number 22 is confirmation of Ms. Carolyn Flowers to the Quality and Productivity Commission.
Okay, welcome Ms. Flowers to the center table. Members wishing to speak on Ms. Flowers' appointment, beginning with Mr. Labange.
Great resident of the 4th District, a great member of the MTA management team, a wonderful person, graduate of Dorsey High and UCLA, and will be great for this commission. Thank you. We recommend a strong vote for Ms. Carolyn Flowers.
Okay, other members wishing to speak? Seeing none, let's open the roll on confirmation, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
That is approved. Forthwith, please.
Thank you.
And is that it for commissioners? Madam
Yes,
Clerk?
it is, Mr. President.
Okay, then without objection, let's jump to item 43 out of order. An amending motion, I believe, has been circulated.
Yes, it has been, and that was called special by Councilmember Parks.
Mr. Parks. Item 43.
If we could have DOT and CLA to come up, please. We should also have Okay. They also have a amending motion circulating that adds some information for some consideration for CD10. But what we tried to do with the motion recently, myself and Ms. Perry, was to try to get a unified city response as it relates to the upcoming light rail down Exposition Boulevard. And recently at T Committee, many of those issues were brought forth. And just for the public consumption, because we had somewhere in the neighborhood of 300 to 400 people that attended the most recent 3 EIR meetings in the community to give their input. And I thought that it would be important for public consumption exactly what some of the main issues were. And it may be the first time that we've asked and received input from several city departments, from CRA to planning to DOT, as to a citywide response as it relates to this system of this type. And what our main interest was not just to have the issue of train track and gravel to be built along Exposition, but to take into consideration many of the other issues of economic development, safety as it relates to some of our high schools and a variety of other things. And maybe, Deloria, you pull this together. Why don't you give us a brief overview, and then also Jerry also can comment on it.
Well, I will turn it over to Delora in a minute, but yeah, we would certainly like to thank CRA Planning, DOT, the community, the MTA, all of the entities that worked with our office in coordinating the comments citywide. There were a number of big issues, as you indicated, issues such as sidewalk width and the need to move traffic versus the need for pedestrian enhancements. There was parking along the line was a major issue. Issues such as grade separations and working with USC to get their commitment to fund those to ensure that safety concerns are addressed, and also that the traffic is not disrupted on some of the major thoroughfares. So it was a comprehensive effort, and again, Delara Rodriguez on my staff can give you more details, but headed up this effort.
Thank you. Thank you, Jerry, and thank you, Councilman. This effort was very important in making sure that once the action is taken at the next MTA board meeting, that the city will have one position relative to how we would see the exposition line being constructed. The 3 departments work together. The key issues that were of concern is the lack of parking. Actually, there was one site that was identified at La Cienega as a parking location. Apart from this, there wasn't much of parking. So we made sure that the issue of park and ride, which is very important for community development and any sort of transit-oriented districts, be identified in all of the reports from the 3 departments and agencies. And that is something that has taken place. The other key element was that we need to ensure that even with the light rail going through the line, that it does not really disrupt much of the neighborhoods, and the pedestrian activity and the safety was very key, especially the safety that is around the schools. That is something that was identified also in the DOT reports as well as the other reports. We identified the key issue that the grade separation should also be, the gates should be, safety measures should be taken over there, and that's something that has been identified. Another issue that was on the motion was eminent domain, and as once the authority to create the construction authority was in place, the legislation has given the power of eminent domain to the authority, so that was an item that was taken care of. The issue of USC, the University of Southern California would like to see the line being extended below grade, not underground, but below grade, past the university all the way past Vermont Street. The position of the City of Los Angeles is as such that we will support USC as long as USC is the one that funds the project. That's one. But the second key element is that we definitely want to see a Truesdale station. That is important to be able to serve the activities that are around that area. And if USC would like to see a below grade line and they have the money for it, that's wonderful. The city will support them, but they need to make sure that there will be funds also additional to build that Truesdale below grade at that site. These are the key issues that were identified, and as I said, the reports that will be handed on Monday to the MTA staff will be a report that reflects the whole position of the City of Los Angeles as being one. Thank you.
Thank you, Gloria. And I just asked colleagues also just to make a verbal amendment on page 2, paragraph 4, where the term underground is used, what would be a more appropriate usage of words is below grade, and that's used 3 times in that paragraph, and it should be below grade as opposed to underground. And so I'd ask that we have an aye vote on the committee report, also on amending motion 43A, so that we can process this to the MTA by the 28th, so our city families' comments could be a part of this EIR process.
Other members wishing to speak? Seeing none, we can open the roll on this item as amended, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
That is approved. Let's come back now. Let's send that forthwith and come back to items 13 through 17 and hear from Ms. Hahn.
Do we have forthwith on that?
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, can I just quickly, they've been sitting here the whole time. Can I have some of the staff from the Port of Los Angeles? I just had one question I'd like to have answered on this international trade zones. Colleagues, these are zones that we approve for commerce and industry, and these trade zones sometimes, but not always, include distribution centers, which some of these are that we're approving today. And my question, I was not able to be in committee when this came before us, but my question, as you know, we're moving forward on a very aggressive policy change at the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach, and that is to begin operating our ports off-peak hours. We want this cargo moved off-peak hours, and as you know, it's already begun, and we're moving about 30 to 35% of our cargo now off-peak, which means there's about 500,000 trucks that are not making daytime trips on our freeway. But when something like this comes before the council, I'm inclined to ask, is there a way when we approve these trade zones with distribution centers that we can in any way require them to remain open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? Because some of the issues about moving cargo off-peak would be, of course, are these distribution centers then open to receive this cargo off-peak? So I want to make sure that all the dots are connected as we really have a major shift for the first time in the history of this country, a major shift in how we're moving cargo. Is this something that before we approve this, can we require these distribution centers to be open 24/7? And if not, help me find a way to sort of make that happen.
Hi, my name is Masa Morimoto. I'm FTZ 202 managers. Okay. We consult this issue with the FTZ board in Washington, D.C., our city attorney and consultant, and we found out that this FTZ program is regulated by federal government, and there is no specific FTZ regulation that prevent the grantee from imposing special conditions. However, that rural regulation also stated that port is required to operate the program on the model of public utility, fair and reasonable in terms of its agreement. So, which means we are not really preventing to make such a regulation, but we have to also have to fair treatment to the all other operators. If we importing our this agreement, wording in this agreement, then we are going to treat the people differently from other operators already operating it. So the best way to solution of this is to make our tariff. Every agreement we have now is say that all our operators have to be agree with our tariff. So when we tariff change, all operators have to be comply with. So this is the best way to change our tariff and ask.
And when will that be coming up again when we look to change our tariff?
We can submit our proposal to the Board of Harbor Commissioners by end of January,
then we have to go through that process for several more months.
So what you're saying is, I think what I heard, Jim, did you want to add to that?
Yes, I just confirm what Masa Muramoto. This is Jim McClellan, Port of Los Angeles. Honored to be here, CEO. Would like to confirm that the tariff is probably the best way because it's a public utility issue of treating all the operators on the same basis.
I see.
So and also, I might add just one quick point. These operators do not themselves control the cargoes. They are just one little unit of the whole logistics chain. So in every case, it's a little bit different. So what we would recommend in the tariff is to encourage an aggressive voluntary program. And I might point out that our research did show that 30% of our current cargo is moving at night, so that's not bad. But we would be pleased to insert an item in the tariff, which I think we could do probably within 3 to 6 months, depending how fast it moves through committee and council.
Okay. Well, thank you. I think what I heard you say was this is a federal government thing, and we don't really have that kind of authority in terms of operating hours to establish these international trade zones. You know me, every time it comes to us, I figure like we have something to say about it if it's coming to us for our approval. But I do like the idea that we could do this within our tariffs, and I would encourage you to get something to the Harbor Commission as soon as possible, and then get it through the committees and City Council to make that happen. And I just like for all of us to think, particularly at the Port of Los Angeles, as we move forward, everything that we have under our purview, under our authority, we keep in mind that we're really never going to go back to the way we used to move cargo. We're only going to go forward. We're growing. I saw a press release from the port that said we had a record container volume last month. So the growth is incredible, but everything we do, we need to think about how to make sure we can relieve congestion and pollution, and this is one of the ways, is to move this cargo off-peak and on the weekend. So everything we're doing, let's always think about how we can include this policy change in everything that we're doing, from leases to tariffs, everything that we have the authority over, and I would appreciate you doing that as quickly as possible. Thank you for that recommendation.
Thank you.
So with that, we can approve this item.
Mr. Rosendahl.
I certainly agree with my colleague Janice Hahn and everything she did say. She has provided great leadership at the port for all of us in the great city, and I appreciate that very much. You know, Congresswoman Jane Harman has some role in this from a federal standpoint, not just from security, but some of the issues that are federal issues. Frankly, we need to go 24/7. We need to be doing it in the evenings and at night. We can't just clutter the already gridlocked highways during the workday for everybody else. Obviously, we've got to deal with the pollution aspects as well. But I think we need to ask the federal government to become more engaged with us. This is the third biggest port, I'm told, successful port in the world. And what this does for the United States of America is incredible. And all of the states in this country benefit from the goods coming into our port. And with that benefit, we in Southern California should get some additional benefits from the federal government. You know, we are always on the short end of the stick when it comes to the federal government. We give $50 billion more in taxes than we get back in services. We need to rebuild our infrastructures, and we need to get more federal support. I hope our congressional delegation, under the leadership of Jane Harman, who represents the harbor, takes what you've just said seriously, and we get some more federal support on all the issues that impact us in Los Angeles, Southern California, and I dare say is part of the real muscle of the United States out of that port.
Other members wishing to speak? Seeing none, let's open the roll on these items, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Those are approved.
Thank you very much.
Next items, please.
Mr. President, item number 39 was called special for an amending motion, and it has been distributed. It is a special event in Council District 14.
Okay, if there's no discussion on that item, let's open the roll on item 39 as amended, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
That is approved. And I believe that brings us back to items 19 and 20 to be considered concurrently. Did you wish to speak, Mr. Labange, before going to public comment?
Hey, members, if we could have public comment on this here, this is an issue that I think is very important. As you see, it's a project that I have lent my support to based on the fact that it's built within the proximity of the Red Line, and we all know we want to balance the needs of housing and communities and neighborhoods, but this is in that proximity, and I think it's a very good project, and I'd like to ask for the public comment from some who feel not so. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. If I can ask the clerk to please put up a 10-minute clock. For the record, this item has had public hearing in committee, so the council is now choosing to reopen the public hearing to allow additional public input. So I'm going to read the list of names of individuals who have submitted speaker cards. I'd ask that you form a line behind the podium, and if you could keep your remarks to close to a minute and try not to be too repetitive of those who have spoken before you, that would help expedite this public hearing. Our first speaker is Edward Andrzejczyk, followed by Elliot Johnson, Philip Simmons, Scott Campbell, Victoria Tsai, Ming Chang Tsai, Sheila Lynn Tucci, I believe, Donald Slidowski, and Debbie Wiebe. In any order, just please come forward and introduce yourself.
Good morning, Mr. President, council members. My name is Philip Simmons. I'm the president of Lang Urban, the developer of the proposed project, and I'm really proud to be here today showing what a true collaboration between the developer and the community can do. Rather than take your time describing the project, I just want to thank you for the time today. And I would like to turn it over to some of the key community members who have been part of our collaboration over the last 18 months in getting this project designed and to this point through the entitlement process. Thank you very much.
Scott Campbell, Vice President of Central Hollywood Neighborhood Council. Just wanted to let you know that the developer has been very good in reaching out to the community and has made presentations to both the Plum Committee and to the full board, and we're in full support of the project. Thank you.
All right, here we go. Okay. Hi, Debbie Wiebe, a lifetime resident of Hollywood, and speaking on behalf of the Neighborhood Council, Central Hollywood Neighborhood Council. As the president, we voted to support this project because of the things that Councilmember LaBonge has already spoken to. We are in support of mixed use and anything that is close to Metro and any of the public transportation. The developer has been extremely supportive and multiple meetings with the community, and I would just like to ask anyone who has not yet taken the opportunity, the golden opportunity to interact with neighborhood councils, to please do that in the near future so that we can have consensus when we come to meetings like this. Thank you.
My name is Eddie Andrzejczyk, 1936 Hillcrest Road. I'm a former member of the Hollywood Heights Board of Directors, the Canyon Hillside group, UTLA Board of Directors. In fact, this morning, Antonio, if you're listening, reminded me of the old days. I've been involved in Hollywood now for 23 years. Elliot Johnson, who had to leave, Laurent Gubel, who couldn't make it, from the Chamber of Commerce. We've been fighting to bring back Hollywood this way for a generation. We are starting to get there. We are there, and we need to keep continuing. If Los Angeles is going to continue, we're going to need developments like this. We're going to need more. I mean, I'm just glad that we have them now. I had some notes, but I was told by Renee she wants us to keep it quick. But basically, one other thing I just want to say is, with urban sprawl, we're more and more dependent on gas. We need to have more projects like this with higher density infill. And I think this is a great thing for Hollywood. It's a great thing for Los Angeles. Thank you.
Next speaker. Again, if you would form a line behind the podium, that would help us out.
Thank you for the opportunity to address you today. I have 6 points, and I'll try and be as brief as possible.
Your name, ma'am?
Sheila Lynn Tutchin.
Thank you.
I live at 7135 Hollywood Boulevard, and my point number 1 is sizable variances being allowed. First of all, let's make it perfectly clear that we do not object to a mixed-use project being built on La Brea between Sunset and Hollywood. Our objection is giving sizable variances to this project, which would result in virtual rezoning. The existing variance allows for 179 units at a height not to exceed 45 feet in an area of approximately 125 square feet. What the developer is asking for is more than double this size with less parking space. Their request is outrageous, dangerous for both the people and the traffic in the area. The developer plans to have 6 retail spaces with only 27 parking spaces. Our neighborhood falls into 2 different council districts, one east of La Brea, which is commercial, and one west of La Brea, which is residential. We have 2 small strip malls in Hollywood and La Brea and 3 at Sunset in La Brea. That totals 5 strip malls within one city block. But you cannot shop in these malls because you cannot find any parking spaces. There is nowhere to park. We desperately need more off-street parking. More off-street parking is critical no matter what you build in the neighborhood. Street parking in general. The lack of street parking has already reached critical mass. This lack causes even more traffic jams that are ever present in our neighborhood streets. The lack of street parking needs to be addressed before any more cars endlessly circling our neighborhood for somewhere to park their vehicle. Affordable housing or not. I am aware that we need affordable housing. The developers held a meeting at the Women's Club of Hollywood, of which I am a member. The developer announced that these condo prices would start at just under $500,000 and up. Subsequently, I was shocked when someone from the Planning Commission asked a rep from the developer's office what the condo prices would be. The rep responded that he had no idea as of yet. My experience in real estate for many years has taught me that when developers are planning a project, the first thing they do is cost out their expenses and profits. Nothing is left to chance. So what is the developer's proposed building plan? Will it be affordable housing or will it be $500,000 condos and up? A traffic impact report was done in August of 2004, August being the slowest month with the least amount of traffic. Even under the best of conditions, the corners of La Brea and Hollywood, La Brea and Sunset received an F rating, the lowest rating possible. This nightmare speaks for itself.
Ma'am, if I can ask you to conclude, there's other speakers waiting behind you.
Okay, I just have one more paragraph. Could I finish that?
Quickly, please.
You have heard all of this before, I'm quite sure, but have you personally seen the area, driven through it, and let's see, I doubt that you have seen it or you never would allow this project to be built. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Victoria Tsai, and I live at 200 South Norton. I'm here with my father, who owns the property at 7110 Hollywood Boulevard. It's a motel right across from this development site, and we are against this development also. We think this project is not a responsible development. The variance allows for twice the height and twice the floor area in the zoning, so it's a zoning change and not a variance. We do want to see this site developed, and mixed use is a good idea, but we think this project is it's too much for this site. Hollywood, as you know, we've always stated, and I think some of you are aware, or maybe all of you are, is highly congested, and it has a severe parking problem. You are not going to fix the traffic congestion and the parking problem by allowing a building that has over twice the height and twice the density of that presently allowed. The west side of La Brea is generally a buffer zone. If you look over there, basically the only commercial is on La Brea and just on Sunset, and it's very low rise. On this site, just north of it is the motel, which is 2- and 3-story, and a single-story mini mall, and then on the north east corner is a 2-story building. South of it is a single-story mini mall, and then to the west and southwest of it is basically all residential. So this is much more than is already there right now, and it would start a precedent where you would just see high-rises over there. It would really redefine this neighborhood in terms of, right now, all you see are 2- and 3-story buildings. And south of the motel, as I said, we're just right across from it, and at the moment, there's basically just a 2-story building. And this project proposes a 6-story building right there and a 7-story building fronting La Brea, but basically a 6-story building right at the end of our property. And that's just, I just can't imagine just, how overwhelming that is. It is basically a wall, a 6-story wall where right now there's empty space in a 2-story, building. So anyway, and then in terms of granting all of this, what is this project doing to give back? There's not really, at street level, it's presenting a parking structure. And all you see are stairs going up to, there is a plaza, but it's 1 story above street level. And so in essence, the community sees stairs, it sees parking walls, and it doesn't participate in the community, at the street level. So in terms of that, we ask that the City Council deny the variance and require the developer to conform to the zoning height and density, to modify its plans in conformance with the surrounding neighborhood, and to give back to the community by presenting a community-friendly project that interacts with the community versus presenting, parking and instead of walls and stairs and then luxury housing just for West Siders. Thank you.
Thank you. And we're almost out of time, but we'll go ahead and hear from the speakers at the podium now.
Sure. Okay, I'm Don Sidlowski. I own the building at 7120 Hollywood Boulevard. I'm not in favor of the variances on the project. I think the project should be constructed within the existing zoning. Basically, doubling the density and doubling the height of the project consists of a zoning upgrade. I don't feel that the developer has demonstrated ample proof that he needs this upgrade. The only thing he has said is that the project would not be economically feasible if constructed under the existing zoning, which is 45 feet, 3 stories. Further, I object to having that much traffic that the new unit will generate into the neighborhood. The 27 parking spaces that are set aside for the commercial 14,000 square feet is far inadequate for the area, and there's no street parking. So I'm very troubled at this. I would like to see the project be constructed within the existing zoning. Thank you.
Councilman, my name is Ming Tsai. I live in the 7110 Hollywood Boulevard. I have a comments on this project. I suppose the site to be developed, but it's I feel it's way over the zoning allowed. This it doesn't match with the zoning. If the city allows to the high density of this project, the city should build more streets or even open a subway station at the Hollywood and La Brea. Because without the solution of the transportation, it just makes the neighbors living like in the jungle. It's so hard to driving along. Even though we have the people to testify for the project, and they are not even live in the surrounding neighborhood areas. The existing traffic in this area is already gridlock all the time during the traffic time, and added so many units and so many the cars in the area will be very extensive hardship for the areas. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. This concludes public comment for items 19 and 20. Mr. Laban, did you wish to be recognized?
No, I just want to thank all for coming down and voicing their concerns. This is a challenge that we all have, but as I stated before, when something's within proximity to the investment that this county has made in the subway system, I want to support it, and it's right off Hollywood Boulevard, and I think they've done some things to mitigate some of the challenges as far as heights on some sides of this parcel. So I ask for an aye vote, and I thank you, Mr. President. Thank all of those who came down today.
Okay, please open the roll on items 19 and 20. Please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
10 eyes.
Those items are approved. Forthwith, please, on both of those items. Next item.
Next item, Mr. President, item number 10 was called special by Councilmember Labange.
Mr. Labange. Want us to come back to you? Okay. Let's open the roll on item number 10, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
10 eyes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Item number 30, called special for card from the public.
Mr. Jim McQuiston, item number 30.
Jim McQuiston, East Hollywood Community Association. The devil is in the details in this particular case. I support getting together with all these little cities and see if we can't work out some of the difficulties that we have with these little cities. When I was on the board at the Hollywood redevelopment area for the Project Area Committee, we had a stone wall when we were trying to negotiate with West Hollywood. They just would not listen to us at all. And one of the difficulties on this particular joint powers agreement is the fact that we're outvoted 4-1, and they can have a quorum with only 3 people, and LA might not even be there when they take a vote to assess us. The only thing that we have to counter this is to say we quit. That, to me, is not good government. We can't just take our marbles and go home. So that means that we are really stuck if we get into this. Now, Councilmember Zine has wisely said the city attorney should look at this and find out exactly what is in the joint powers agreement. And if the city attorney says, hey, we shouldn't get into this or we should have something changed, I think we should do it. When you get up something as massive, and I say massive, as this joint powers agreement, you really cannot cover all the details. As an engineer, I know very well when I've drawn drawings, there have been mistakes on those drawings. And we go over and over them, and we still have some laborer finding those mistakes and ridiculing us. So I'm very, very familiar with the idea that we do not cover ourselves entirely with everything. And I'm resigned to that. And all I'm saying is that Councilmember Zine did a very wise thing in saying that the city attorney should take a look at this and see if it is really in order for the city. We can always participate in this group. The state government code says that the city of Los Angeles cannot be prohibited from participating, even though we're not members. So it's not a question of being excluded. It's a question of whether we're being taken advantage of, and whether we're going to get some good out of spending all our time on this commission. So we want to make as good a joint powers agreement as we can, equitable. I don't go with the CLA's recommendation because we should not have a veto power over these cities, but we should have an equitable sharing of the responsibilities and the powers.
Thank you. Mr. Rosendahl.
President, I look forward to us approving this motion. It provides us an opportunity to actually sit at the table with the 4 other cities on the west side, Beverly Hills, West Hollywood, Santa Monica, and Culver City. And obviously it is subject to the city attorney checking out aspects of it. But it is a great moment. I was there last week at the COG meeting, and the discussions on traffic and transportation and gridlock issues are very common on the west side between Culver City, Santa Monica, Beverly Hills, and West Hollywood. We also talked about the homeless issue and its impact on the region. And it's a great thing for the city of Los Angeles. My esteemed colleague, Janice Hahn, is on the South Bay COG as it is right now, participating with the cities in the South Bay and making a huge difference with the other cities in regional issues. And I applaud her for that leadership. And I look forward to providing the same kind of leadership in the West Side with the other 4 cities and work as a group of 5 5. And thank you, Mr. President.
Absolutely. Other members wishing to speak? Seeing none, let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Okay, that is approved. Let's take up items 32 and 38 concurrently for a joint public hearing and hear from Valinda Jo Wright on items 32 and 38.
Hello, how are you guys today? I was going to speak on especially item 32. I think it's a good idea, public safety, because people act irresponsibly. Like just Saturday night at 8:30, I was told that there was like some type of arson fire a couple of blocks from my mom's house. At, 4507 and 4509 Normandy, and it happens to be across the street from an elementary school. And I was talking with some of the residents that are really close by there, because I know some of them, and they told me that, like, you know, it was really bad because they were putting water on the fire for like an hour, and it was so incendiary it was still burning. So no one had really seen anything like that, so they were really kind of scared. And so I think it's people should think about public safety and act responsibly, you know, and the way they carry themselves and everything, because especially on that block, there are 3 wheelchair ramps, because like there are older seniors that live, especially on 45th Street. There are a lot of older seniors that have been there since the 40s and the 50s. And it's, you know, no one's really seen anything like that before. And I just want to say that people should try and, you know, behave responsibly, especially for the Thanksgiving holiday. And I hope you guys have a good Thanksgiving. And these are some other things I had made for the city council. There you go.
Okay, we'll have the sergeant take those from you. This concludes public comment for items 32 and 38. Members of the council wishing to speak on either of these items? Seeing none, let's open the roll on items 32 and 38, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Those are approved. Next item, please.
Item 44, call special for a card from the public.
And the council calls forward Ms. Sylvia Hawkins.
May I please have my 3 minutes, please?
Go ahead.
Thank you. On number 44, we must say no on pills and hospitalization. These are the reasons why President Bush didn't receive any money as of yet for homeless pills and hospitalization. Shelters and hospitals has closed down now. As a mentally ill person for 10 years, I have been freed from all medication pills of Haldol, Risperdal, Cogentin, Lithium, Depakote for 6 years now. Giving these homeless mentally ill people pills is out of order. These pills is what is causing them to behave in an out-of-order behavior. These homeless people can't remember their next doctor appointment, for they are homeless. No on pill use, using their own private part, urine, or doo-doo only. President Bush is trying to do 1930 style, only to bound the public and all returning military of 8 different countries. We are asking all mentally ill people, public people, and military people, if you have to get a doctor appointment, prescription, to go to the pharmacy to get your pills or mentally ill pills, please don't take the pills. Don't dump them in the garbage can, and no in the toilet, because of our ocean and seas can't be destroyed with these panic pills. Again, we must say no on medication dealing with mentally ill pill because of the location of where they are coming from. We are not sure. We're in the middle of a war. We are not sure if it's coming from London, Canada, Russia, or Ukraine. Therefore, we asking all. as some of these firms, chemical factories, hospitals are closed down, there's more people that are not in hospitals, not in mental wards. We ask you to please, to halt all medication. 1930 style will not work, which is dealing with Pearl Harbor time, which is dealing with once we was bombed in 1940. The deal was since 1930 to peel all medication on USA people. Now it didn't work. Now we are healed. Thank you very much. My name is Sylvia Hawkins. Thank you.
Thank you. This concludes public comment for item number 44. Ms. Hahn.
Well, thank you. I thought I knew what I was talking on until we had that public comment. I wasn't sure what item 44 was about. But colleagues, actually, I wanted to stand up really quick and say this is a great idea, item 44, from how I understand it. What we're doing is we're requesting $425,000 grant through AmeriCorps to do what is music to my ears, and that's to coordinate and collaborate with community groups, schools, city agencies, first responders in disaster preparedness and emergency response. I think this is an issue that I talk about all the time. I just wanted to make sure that maybe even we make sure that we have a friendly amendment to this, that we specifically call out neighborhood councils on this one, because they're all over the city now, and they're a perfect community group to be trained in emergency emergency preparedness and emergency response and disaster preparedness. So I just want to make sure that we call out neighborhood councils in this motion, and we make sure we also include the ability to have evacuation as a part of this, because in the event of a major disaster, in the event, whether it be natural or a terrorist attack, if we have to, or a tsunami in the harbor area, evacuation of the city will be a very interesting procedure. And I just want to make sure that in this grant, we look at that opportunity, if we do get that grant, to include that in this training and recruitment. I think this is a great idea, and it will be a positive thing for the city of Los Angeles. Thank you, Bill Rosendahl.
Thank you.
And Tom LaBonge for bringing this forward. It's great, great idea.
Anything further on this item? Seeing none, let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Item number 55, called special by Councilmember Parks.
Mr. Parks.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, I'd like to ask that we reconsider item 35. We have an error in the date on the event.
Let's open the roll on reconsideration of item 35. Close the roll and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
That's back before us.
Yes. It just would need to change the date from 2004 to 2005 on both of the November and the December date.
Okay, with that correction, let's reopen the roll on item 35, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Okay, that is approved once again. And back to 55.
55. Thank you, Mr. President. I would just like to publicly acknowledge a business in the 8th District, Mr. E.J. Jackson, who is the owner of the Jackson Limousine Service at Hillcrest and Slauson, along with Kevin Pickett, who also has a special need housing located in the 8th District with the real emphasis on AIDS special needs. They're putting on today, starting at 6 a.m. this morning, a turkey and food giveaway to the community. Between 6 a.m. and 3 p.m., they will be distributing over 5,000 turkeys in the community. I was there earlier today. The mayor was there handing out foodstuffs, and they had lines several blocks long. I just want to say thank you to Mr. E.J. Jackson, Kevin Pickett, Cora King, and that whole group of local business people that put this on today.
Thank you, Mr. Parks. Anything else on this item, item 55? If not, let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Okay, that's approved. And I believe that's the end of our agenda. Madam Clerk, are there any special motions today?
No, but council has motions for posting and referral,
Motion shall be posted and referred.
and there are excuses on the desk. Councilmember Rosendahl requests to be excused Tuesday, November 29th for city business that meets council policy.
Mr. Rosendahl is excused.
And Councilmember Parks requests to be excused Wednesday, November 30th to leave at noon for city business. A motion is required.
Mr. Smith moves. Mr. Parks is excused.
And that clears the desk.
Okay. Colleagues, it's the end of our agenda. The first announcement on behalf of Mr. Reyes is that Plum Committee, our Planning and Land Use Management Committee, will begin 15 minutes after the conclusion of council, roughly about 1:45 today. Other announcements? Mr. Smith?
Yes, I just want to take this opportunity to thank a number of people for the very first video conferencing that took place today. Mr. Cardenas in particular, for you and your staff helping us run the operation out there, to ITA, Roger Fernandez and Terry Hallberg, Mayor Villagros's office, who lets us use the video conferencing room out there, which is his room, and GSD and the city clerk's office for their assistance getting it going. I was trying to think of an eloquent word as we watched the very first event today. All I can think of was just really cool to watch these people being able to testify from Van Nuys. So thank you to all those people who made it possible, and President Padilla's office for assisting as well. But again, Mr. Cardenas, a very special thanks to you and your staff out at Van Nuys for helping us run that.
Mr. Cardenas? Announcements? Mr. Parks?
Thank you, Mr. President. Just like to make an announcement that the Healthy Parks, Healthy Communities Training Workshop is going to be held Wednesday, November the 30th, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. The contact number is at the Community Coalition, 213-380-4233, and there's limited seating, so we'd ask that you call to make those reservations.
Other announcements? Colleagues, if not, then let me announce to folks watching at home, the City Council will meet at its regular time tomorrow, 10 a.m. here in City Hall, but we will be in recess this Friday. There will be no council meeting this Friday after Thanksgiving. So if there's no further announcements, please rise for adjourning motions. Mr. Cardenas.
Thank you very much, Council President. With great sadness, I announce the adjournment and motion of John K. Farkas. He passed away on Tuesday, November 15th, 2005. Circumstances were death by heart attack. He was 33 years old. John began to be a servant of his community as an Eagle Scout as a young boy, and he graduated magna cum laude from St. Francis High School in La Cañada, Flint Ridge, and he earned his Bachelor of Arts degree in Political Science from Whittier College. He went on to work in various places of public service and spent quite a few years working for our Lieutenant Governor, Gray Davis, and served also as a scheduling deputy and executive writer as a special assistant as well. He also worked in external affairs and deputy director of the governor's Los Angeles regional office, and he helped manage events and oversee community outreach, as well as serving as a liaison with a wide variety of statewide community organizations. John will be sorely missed by all of the people who knew him, and he's survived by his wife Abby and his father Dan Farkas.
Mr. Smith?
Mr. President, Mr. Zion had asked me to introduce the same motion, so if he could be listed as either the co-presenter or seconder on his behalf, appreciate that.
And all members on that. Mr. Cardenas.
Another adjourning motion. I regret to adjourn in the memory of Richard Allen Gailey, otherwise known as Rick. He was born on March 10th, 1949, and he passed away on October 11th, 2005. He died of a heart attack, and he's survived by his parents, Louise and Ralph, and his two sisters and one brother and three children, Richard, David, and Amanda, and three grandchildren, Catalin, Kyle, and Bethany. Rick was a veteran from the Vietnam War. He served his country as a radio mechanic. He was also known for good humor and his willingness to help people around him. I'd like to give special recognition to someone that introduced us to each other, and we became friends, and the love of his life, Hema Wisar and their family, Conrado, Gabriela, Ama, and Myra. He will be missed greatly by many of us, and he was someone who worked with my family members, someone who was friends with many people that we know, and he died very suddenly at his work, and he worked for SBC in the San Fernando Valley.
Other tributes? Mr. Parks.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd ask that we adjourn in memory of Mary Walker. She's the wife of longtime and former YMCA Director Dick Walker. She recently passed away due to heart failure just a couple of weeks after the family had retired and relocated in the Houston area so they could be close to their children. Her death was unexpected and a great shock. Funeral service was held in Houston. Also, there are tentative plans to have a service in Los Angeles. She's survived by her husband, Dick Walker, and children.
Ms. Perry.
I'd like to adjourn in memory of Sylvia Lawson, and I believe she was a resident of Brentwood, and perhaps Mr. Rosendahl would like to join me. She passed away peacefully on November 20th, 2005 in Santa Monica from Shy-Drager syndrome, a form of Parkinson's disease. She and her husband Louis, who predeceased her exactly by 1 month, were married for over 53 years. She will be greatly missed by her family and friends. She was born in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, and during World War II, at the age of 18, she moved to Washington, D.C. to serve as a clerk for the United States military. She moved to Los Angeles in the late 1940s and resided in Kenter Canyon in Brentwood for her last 44 years. While raising 3 children, she earned a bachelor's degree from Cal State University Northridge and master's degrees in education and counseling from CSUN and the University of La Verne. She was proud of her 20 years of service with the Los Angeles Unified School District as a teacher, guidance counselor, and vice principal at Dorsey and Palisades High Schools. For years, Sylvia participated in activities with Hadassah and University Synagogue. She was an excellent cook, enjoyed travel, shopping, and the theater. She also enjoyed hosting parties with her family and friends, both locally and at Marina Park in Newport Beach. Her services will be held at noon on Wednesday, November the 23rd at Mount Sinai, Hollywood Hills. In lieu of flowers, donations can be sent to honor her memory to Hadassah of Southern California or the National Parkinson Foundation. She is survived by her son, Craig Lawson, his wife, Terry Peters, and their daughter, her grandchild, Emily. Her daughters, Michelle, Dornfest, Cheryl, or Sherry Lawson. She will be missed by loving relatives from the Fields and Finkelman families and many other cousins and friends.
I'd like to co-motion that, please.
Okay. Other tributes? Madam Clerk, please call the roll. Thank you all very much. This meeting is adjourned.